Oh, hold on. There is a TP, and they're also pinging deep. There's a ward there, so Eevee could look for it, but looks like they're just
minions.
Gonna let it go.
Oh, here we go. Back again, second round. Okay, so thinking about it, but Rampage decided not to go all in on that, and that's first tower.
Yeah, big problem was that the bot lane wasn't in position. You have to think if Braum and Tristana were a little bit closer, maybe they would have pulled the trigger, sent the Rumble down there, and tried to look for a skirmish. But overall, again, just a great read from HKA. They understand that Rek'Sai was up into the top lane, had to respond to the big creep wave to try to hold onto the tower, and with information about where the enemy jungler was, Mission knew that he was safe to wander down into the bottom river, not going to walk into a 2v1 scenario, which freed him up for the roam.
Yep. As a result of all that, Hong Kong Attitude, they find themselves at 3,000 gold lead. 12 minutes in. However, they will lose out on this Infernal Drake because Rampage just realized, all right, well, he didn't take all the spoils of war, so we're going to come in here and just grab the rest of it.
Yeah, just the tug of war of tempo. So HKA are going to expend their time, maybe overreach on the map in terms of time spent, take the first tower. They're then going to make their immediate backs, which opens up a window for the Infernal Drake.
And that's so important for Rampage, right? Like, not only are you down against a team that's going to be a little more laning dominant anyways, but your wing conditions are try to play up into that late game. You have this bridge comp that you talked about. The Lucian's strong, the Rumble will soon be strong, but eventually it's going to be all on the back of Yutori Miyashi. As Tristana that has an Infernal Drake, extra AD, you're not going to want to miss that.
And you know, everyone talks about the Tristana in the late game, but I'm also a big fan of Lucian in the late game. I think a lot of teams really underestimate his damage as well as Rumble. I mean, you look at Lucian Rumble, you're like, bam, mid-game power spike, but late game, if these guys get the space, they're still putting out some massive numbers alongside that Tristana.
That's a good point, and all things considered, when you have River stacking MR on this Rumble, or excuse me, on the Galio, it's going to be not nearly as effective as when Ramane is spending a bit culling into his head, but Adaptive Helm up, of course, already completed. Another tower is going to fall, it keeps that gold lead going. And Godquai was a little bit deep, but he takes the Blast One Express out over the Rift Herald pit, and it gets aggroed on the way out.
Does need to be a little bit careful here because you can tell that Rampage don't want to let this Rift Herald go just for free. They've also pulled Dara, so they have the numbers advantage, at least for the top side of the map, until HK decides they want to reset the map, send their Galio bot side, and move their bot top side.
I think Rampage wants to reset something, but was able to spend a couple of cooldowns to push back Ramane and Tussle, and Dara, I should say. Dara just been on a roving spree because at this point, laning phase is over. He can leave Yutori Miyashi to his own devices, and there's no counter pressure.
There's also the fact that, Yutori's sitting on the Tristana. He's totally fine to play a side lane, more so than most other AD carries. Has the ultimate to push back, has the rocket jump, so a lot of safety there. And you can use the Tristana then to create a pressure point. So you can already see Yutori's hard pushing bottom, just trying to dissuade HKA from automatically walking up to the Rift Herald because he's threatening destruction.
There's actually a lot of Rampage members down towards bot. Unified, I don't think he's in danger of being killed anytime soon though, because Kaiwing's there, so is Godquai, just about in the area. But once again, Rampage continue this trend of building up vision just inside of the Hong Kong Attitude bot side jungle. And they're also keeping a lot of it clear for themselves up top. They see Mission moving up here.
But the problem is the vision's not where it needs to be. The central focus is going to be around that Rift Herald. You can see that HK are starting to unlock their mid laner, roaming up there, threatening the Rumble. Again, Rumble sitting on the variety bucket of items, has a book, has a Ruby Crystal.
That's a discount build right now.
It's not great. I know Rumble's a low econ champion. He gets a lot of his strength through his levels and his ability to use that ultimate, but he's not feeling good right now, and HKA can exploit that.
Yeah, he starts to get a little bit better. He does pick up a Haunting Guys and a Blasting Wand, so he's definitely well on his way to getting the land from Torment, but I think he's been a little more tormented than that to start things off. Now, looks like we're in for a dive. Teleport ward already down, and Godquai looking to go in. Oh, they've got to jump up, and Yutori Miyashi is going to get a knockback, but Galio's right behind him, and even though Evi's there, it's not going to be nearly enough. Even Mission coming in, not needed for the cleanup duty. That's a double kill for Unified.
And there's a lot of members here, not the biggest creep wave, so they should be cleared out by Rampage, and their tower should be underhand, but hold on.
Oh man, Evi even flashes, but he gets taunted up off the back half, forcing out Ramane. Ultimate now. Unified still trying to push forward. They've not got that many minions, but they've spent a lot out of the health bar.
Exactly, and that's the thing. They chipped away at the health bar, which means that they now have the time to wait for the creep wave to crash, and now the inner tower is under threat, especially with Jarvan on the side.
Yeah, Hong Kong Attitude just pulling the go switch and realizing they can take out a couple members of Rampage right off the bat. 2-0 on the kills. They're about to make it 3-0 on the towers. And there it is. As soon as they hit that power spike, the best time in League of Legends, as it were, the Art Center, there they go.
And it's just set up from the very beginning. HK have had a much better read on the map for pretty much the big 2 plays that they've made. Sets down the ward, gets the automatic teleport, and Godquai, it doesn't get easier Cataclysm than that. Forces the flash as well as the rocket jump out of Tristana, which means as soon as she's locked in, she's not going anywhere. then Dara will fall down. But the biggest mistake that I think Rampage make in this instance is that Rumble overreaches a little bit, loses so much of his health bar, which means he can't sit under the tower and try to clear out with his team with Flame Spinner.
Yeah, we were just talking about how he's been having a little bit of a hard time. It continues. That's only, well, he only had one death. He ended up getting away, but unfortunately they couldn't defend the tower off the back of it. So Rampage, they've definitely got some catching up. 6,000 gold is the deficit. Hong Kong Attitude. I asked you at the beginning of this game, how big did it need to be at about 15 or so minutes for HKA to feel pretty comfortable starting some big things up like the Baron if it hits? What do you think about 6K?
It's definitely big, and it's a big deal at 17 minutes. Again, HK are just starting to move into that portion of the game. However, when the setup is what we were examining, it was questionable, I'm going to say, against 1907 Fenerbahce yesterday. So we'll keep our eyes. How do they move their vision? How do they protect their vision? And how do they free pick off of their vision? Again, it's the Sindra, it's the Varus, the Jarvan. They have a ton of potential.
The picks have definitely been coming, and they've even got disengaged right now. Now Mission, oh, there's a heal forced out. Godquai even tanking the last half of the culling. But now there's pressure on Rampage's side mid. Not a lot of minions though. But
we do see Galio starting to rotate over. He's trying to decide, do we collapse into the mid lane and look for the team fight, or do I continue to pressure forward on the top lane, create a big pivot point that we can then reset our backs and move towards that Infernal Drain?
That's the thing for Hong Kong Attitude though. They've got the choices right now. It seems like Rampage doesn't really have much of one. They kind of have to try and force down the mid.
Yeah, I love the word that you use, choices, there, because I feel like HKA, it seems so subtle, and yes, the gold lead is pretty big, but the kill count is low, 4-0. That doesn't, that's not indicative of a high-action game, but I feel like HKA have actually been super proactive in driving the tempo and controlling a lot of these choices. You know, it was Tussle that, and I'm going to hard farm to level 6, I can punish the flash with Syndra, but he never got the opportunity because he's always just been responding to what Godquai was doing in the early game.
But he actually was able to grab Godquai in the very beginning quite effectively. We were giving him a lot of praise for being able to try and shut him down, but it just wasn't quite enough, and it seemed like that effort kind of went all out the window the moment he tried to save his mid laner and ended up giving first blood.
Yeah, HK just understanding exactly where to attack on the map and executing on it beautifully so far. As they are going to go ahead and start the Infernal. It should be uncontested again. Rampage, they're simply down in gold, they're down in vision, and they don't want to try to overextend risk, especially this close to a Baron spawn. You lose the 5v5 there, HK are just going to rock over to the Baron and pretty much close out the game.
Yeah, that's 40 seconds until the Baron's going to spawn up. Rampage pretty much stuck under the mid turret for the time being. They've of course sent Evie up to the top side and Ramane down to the bottom just to keep waves cleared so it's not an easy Baron take when it does come up. But Hong Kong Attitude, they've got all the tools in their kit to try and fire down anyone if they find them.
But this is where the magnifying glass gets to be set up on HKA. If you're going to talk big, if you're going to be a top 16 team, guess what? The Baron spawning in 19 seconds, the next Dragon's going to be an Infernal. Where do you place your vision? How easily do you execute on it? How are you managing your side wave control when you are setting up these big objectives? It doesn't matter if this is Rampage, if this is Fenerbahce, if this is XKT. This is what you need to clean up if you are going to walk the big one. You gotta have a big stick.
Yeah, and it's definitely not going to be the most difficult opponent to prove it against, but we've seen Hong Kong Attitude already make some big mistakes, so maybe this is the time to try and rectify that to, better their own objective setters.
It's also putting the onus on them to continue to drive the tempo of the game. Rampage at this point, they kind of want to sit back, look for these big 5v5s where they can utilize the Rumble, because level 12 has 2 points in the ultimate, so despite the fact that he's probably not feeling too comfortable in his build, he still will hurt. But it's about buying time for Vitori and this Tristana.
Yeah, it looked like Hong Kong Attitude was going to try to get the catch off, but it was Dara that they managed to find, and this is the team fight chance for Rampage. Can they get the kills off? Godquai not quite going down, but they've got a taunt up onto the Tristana. Yutori Mayashi going down to Mission's ultimate. Power unleashed on that last tick of health bar. Now Ramane trying to save some lives off the back half of it. Doesn't really matter too much. Evie's forced to flash back behind the wall of Dara. And Hong Kong Attitude not losing a man. They are too big, too tanky.
Yeah, and they've got the tempo behind them as well as the creep wave. So this will be a free tower, which makes it that much easier to now blitz that vision on the top red side jungle and make this Baron even easier to secure when they turn towards it.
I suppose everything is free if you kill the ones who own it. Down goes the Tristana, results in the tower. Yeah, there's another Infernal Drake coming up in a while, but the Baron, it just gets easier and easier when they have all of this gold. I just wonder how soon are they going to actually try to go towards it. Right now, they don't seem to be in a big rush.
Yeah, but let's take another look at that team fight. Unfortunately, Yutori there, he does have his flash available. He tries to use the rocket jump. It's interrupted, and then he's just CC locked that he never even gets the opportunity to flash away. Now, this starts, and it looks okay for Rampage, but it's when Riris finds the taunt there on Chris. She gets locked down, she's got nothing left, and she just pops like a bomb.
All right, I have a recommendation for you, Yutori. IQSS.
I would just say press F.
Well, a little faster, yeah. It's on D, though.
Ah, see, that's his problem. I stand firm on this. F is for flash.
You do need, is it in Japanese as well?
Maybe.
Yeah, I really don't know, actually. I've never played on the LGL. But anyways, 5 kills to 0 for Hong Kong Attitude. He talked about it not being necessarily as high of an action game, but it's played exactly the same way. They get the catches. Even in extended team fights, it kind of does feel like a series of catches that just keeps resulting in towers. For every kill, they manage to knock one down. And
they might get another catch, though, as Tussle is trying to create space for his mid laner here. In trouble.
He was seeking prey, but it was Hong Kong Attitude that found it. Ramane jumping, there's the pit, flashing out. Kai Wing and Godquai still hanging on, and looks like Ramane expends pretty much everything, but he does get out alive.
The classic Janna player. You can always tell playmaking supports when they play Janna because they rush forward and everything. Like, no, I'm slow, I got this.
I'm gonna throw the little bird at you. Yeah, Janna supports. Kai Wing definitely showing up pretty impressive in this game so far. Let's see if they can keep it going. There's the lockdown on the Rumble, and in comes Riris. The gank squad was real in the mid lane. 23 minutes, we've got 6 kills on the board for Hong Kong.
And again, it's another pick. That said, I know what Eddie was trying to do right there. Lucian up into the top lane had expended his flash. He was trying to buy time. You know, they're trying to force the waves to keep HK bouncing between top and mid, delay them from starting this Baron. Unfortunately, Evie wasn't able to get the hell out of dodge and back into the safe zone.
Yeah, now Hong Kong Attitude is pretty much all dark in that Baron pick, courtesy of the control ward. It's starting to fall pretty fast, but is this the time for Tussle to try and be the hero? I don't know if he's going to get the chance. His Mission standing on the back, trying to force him back to Dara. He's got the block up here, but they can see they're going to turn around. Don't need the big purple worm. Instead, they want the fight, turning it over onto Tussle if they can get him out of the picture while the Baron's still aggroed. Looks like Mission's going to get knocked back, but he's staying alive for the time being. That's a big shield. Baron gets smited on down, and Riris is still holding on to everyone from Rampage.
Here comes Evie.
Hong Kong Attitude, they've not lost a man. Evie looking to come around the side, but it might be too little and too late. Godquai still stunned up. Looks like he's going to be the first casualty of the team, or is he? One more auto attack is going to do it for Ramane, but that is a death well spent as Hong Kong managed to get themselves 4 members on the Baron.
And that was a better Baron setup from HK. This time around, they decided that, yes, the jungler is in position, but we have faith in our mid laner and our support to be able to clear out the back of the pit. So you can see Mission, he started on the back. He was just trying to force people out of line. He then burns the ultimate on Tristana before it's like, hey guys, we need to get Tussle out of here. Galio forces him over the other side of the wall, and meanwhile, the team just burns the Baron.
Yeah, Mission nearly went down with a clutch shield on the end of it. They're still buying a lot of time. Eventually, you can see Godquai tag his way. It's probably unnecessary. A little bit ham there, but that's okay, Godquai. You can tell he used to be an AD.
He's playing Tristana right now in Jarvan.
Wait, I don't have a jump backwards. So, the only downside for Hong Kong Attitude right now is they don't have a chance to take a perfect game anymore that they screwed up the last time they met.
Well, they also lost the dragon, so that chance...
Oh, yeah, I guess that doesn't count, does it?
It sailed a long time ago.
Well, I missed the boat every now and
But
again.
it's about improving on the weaknesses that we saw yesterday, which was the Baron setup. You know, it was 2 steals that really turned the tides of 1907 Fenerbahce's game. And this time around, it wasn't stolen, so we're already on the up.
Well, they also did it so effectively to block out the potential steal attempt as Godquai finds Death Rush, but looks like it might be the death of Rampage. Riris going all the way in. The equalizer's thrown down, but it's just going to make them back off. Riris even claiming a kill for himself, while the rest of the team is bringing up the rear. That's a double kill. That Galio deals some serious damage. Shield of Duran. Ramane stunned up. Scout of the Weekend unified with the last hit. It means the door is wide open for Hong Kong Attitude.
And Riris is just so far ahead of the clock right now. The goal advantage, you can already see 10 days in favor. Doesn't matter. He's also got the Baron on top of it. Effectively, he is unkillable. There's no one who can do damage to him, so he's free to just run freely into the backlines and create so much space for his team.
And he's been a part of every single one of the kills Hong Kong Attitude have had in this game, and it looks like that might be all the ones as they're looking to close this out. Just zoning out Yutori Miyashi as the Unleashed power comes in. He hops back into the fountain, but their Nexus tower is being cut through. Dara, last chance saloon here as he throws up the Glacial Fissure, but the Nexus is bare with the minions on top. Tussle going down and out Nothing they can really do here as Mission gets himself a spree kill, and this is going to be all she wrote for Hong Kong Attitude. This is the start. This team wants to be top 16, and a big win on their board is going to help them do it.
And it's only a single kill as well as an Infernal Drake that denies them the perfect game. HKA came in today and said, we are going to smash everyone, and it started here with Rampage.
Well, smash is definitely a very appropriate verb for that game. Hong Kong Attitude showed up, and they put their money where the mouths are twice now against Rampage.
And huge props to their top laner. You know, talking to this team, personally, I'm looking at their AD carry, I'm looking at their mid lane, I'm like, wow, you know, Mission's really underrated, unified, a super strong, one of the top ADCs in the LMS, but the team's like, no, our big strong point is Riris, his ability to understand when he needs to split push, when he needs to collapse for the team. Galio is a perfect champion to empower everything the team believes that their top laner is good at.
Certainly fits the meta as well, so really good time, and Riris just showed up and delivered multiple times to the hero's entrance, and he really was the hero of that game.
Yeah, was able to create massive pressure pivot points for them to move around, was pretty much on point with the teleport. It was the big TP bottom that really got things snowballed ahead when they took down Itori as well as Dara there, catching them a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, we talked about the way that Rampage were going to be able to kind of stack up their comp towards the later stages of the game. Unfortunately, the snowball just rolled down too fast for them to really be able to handle. One pick turned into another, turned into a tower, turned into a massive gold lead. And there just wasn't a whole lot of chance for this team.
But you can already see the adaptation that the LGL attempted there, you know, mixing up their draft. It wasn't the Soraka this time around, it was the Braum. They did have pressure in their lanes. They did effectively survive the lane phase. They didn't just get blown out. It was when HKA started to create these skirmishes and move around the map that Rampage started to fall behind. So even though they lost, there were improvements.
Close to the Rampage team. Now to hear more about that game, let's send it over to Dracos and the analysts.
Thank you very much, Tara. An incredibly one-sided game, and really it felt like LJL only got a chance, in the first few minutes. It felt like everything fell south after that.
Yeah, as game time increases, probability goes down for winning, and they have better picks this time around. Trying to do that, the Lucian right side combination is going to try and snowball around mid lane. Syndra, while dominant, can be a little exposed to gank because she's so good.
I know that Tristana for the late game as well. So when you look at the drafting, you give them compliments for what it's worth. Even alluded to that during the past. They did do some things better than we saw from them yesterday. Of course, though, when we look at these first few early plays, you can see that while their head was kind of in the right space, they were trying to make the right things happen. Ultimately, a lot of the early plays backfired, and that felt like what cost them.
Yeah, but the problem here was just that Lucian has stayed on the map too long, ends up with no mana, no way to actually deal with this. Syndra is pushed all the way up, so they called the jungler to try and make this work, and it seems like it's gonna get a kill, but Galio comes in at just the right time, able to collapse on this play, knock up, tussle, make sure that this does not result in a kill in the middle.
Yeah, we were looking at this while watching the replay, and how was a Galio even there? Well, it just happened that he was calling to get a Spectre's Callan, was at the right place at the right time. Once again, they get that first kill onto their top laner, and Riris is able to run away with that. Compliments of Jarvan everywhere that he needs. So he started to warm up, and all of that early pressure of the Rek'Sai slowly dwindled. And Riris was a huge factor here. Specifically, he felt like he's everywhere. He's involved in so many of the plays consistently. Coming in is just a fantastic player for Hong Kong. Actually, I think he is the guy who's just stepped up so much this game to make this game happen.
I think that's really good, just 100% kill participation, and moving forward to their rematch versus 1907 Fenerbahce, this is the big thing that you want to see is more people step up around them, because it did feel like they were not all on the same page come the team fighting phase, and hopefully this is a indicator that they're going to work better together.
Yeah, a lot of good Galios throughout all of the tournament, particularly from Group C and D, and this is no exception to that rule. I think it was. All right, so let's talk a little bit about that, because normally we see Galio mid, we saw Jensen play it. This is the era of Galio top, it feels like. Is this something that we expect to see consistently, or is this something kind of exclusive to the meta that we have here?
It feels like, I'm not quite 100% ready to say why the priority in Galio has shifted from mid lane to top lane. I do think that some of these teams are not ready to punish it in the top lane quite like how you would expect, where you see people start taking things into it that really bully it hard early, like Renekton and stuff like that, that can shut it down. And then it feels like a lot more of these players are more tank focused in the top lane, and they don't want to play hyper carries against it. And, you know, because you see Camille's with Galios in the mid, and those, when you don't play those in the top lane, the Galio mid becomes less effective because you don't have that combination potential 1-3-1.
We've seen some attempts at counters to it as well, like Fiora from Chippy's even on the dire walls. We know that Renekton is a pick that could be done into it, but ultimately these counters, even as counter picks, haven't been successful. And so you do have to bring it back to, is there anyone in this tournament that can beat the Galio top lane? If no, why not pick it every single time? Maybe it is just that good.
Right, it's a combination of you don't have a good way to beat it in the top lane, and you don't have something you want to play that would make you force it into the mid lane.
It also feels like we have a lot of mid laners who are pretty dominant. We've seen the Syndra play in there. He was consistently pushing that Lucian in. So I'm wondering if this is a, hey, we don't want to put you on a Galio, because yes, it is a playmaking pick, but ultimately Galio just doesn't do damage, right? And it feels like a lot of these teams have been relying on their mid laners to make pretty big impact in the game.
There's also that world where you do need to flex it to the top lane, most importantly, when you've got Cassiopeia running around in the mid lane, can do work against the Galio Lucians that are being picked even in this game as an example. One more reason you maybe don't want to be in this matchup, and I think this is the biggest thing above all else for it, is you have to dodge the bad lane, and there is no bad one up top.
Galio, though, feels like it's going to continue to be a varied pick. I want to shift attention back to Hong Kong Attitude, because they have now locked themselves into the elimination match. Not first seed or second seed yet. We'll find that out as we move later into the day, but they are at least getting second, and this team does feel like, to a certain degree, that they have stepped up across their games. I'm wondering what feels like the biggest weakness for them right now as we look to the games ahead.
I mean, that 18 to 20 minute mark, you see that the gold lead kind of slowly tapers off right there, and when it was against 1907 Fenerbahce, they actually end up losing that gold lead that they had. So I think they need to make sure that they continue to play aggressive in the mid-lane game, and maybe clean up a little bit around Baron, because they don't necessarily need to force these 50-50 Barons. Focus more on the turn-off potential, something like that.
Yeah, so I think the word aggression is where you lose me a little bit here as well, because they hit mid-game, they hit late game, and that aggression almost just completely stops. It almost feels too slow from them, and when you bring this back to the 1907 Fenerbahce match, I mean, you're giving them opportunities to come back into the game. There's one too many than you should have. This attempt at this fleeting illusion of a perfect game that they seem to consistently want to get hasn't been there for them, and I think they need to accelerate how they're winning games when they have leads. They want to shore up what I would define as, honestly, not just a weakness, but something people can attack.
And it does feel like that when we look at, of course, the double steals coming up against them, against Fenerbahce. So how do they speed that up? Is it a matter of just more aggressively playing around Baron, looking for picks? What do you feel like is the next step for them?
I think potentially just, this is why I like the Galio pick a lot, is because it allows you to brute force some of those dive plays. So in this game, you saw that one time that Rampage extended in the bot lane, they dropped the ward behind, they go for that big TP play. I felt like they lacked some of those really back-breaking plays in that series, and I think that's the big thing for. Don't risk the 50-50 Barons, don't get in fully even team fights, try and find people extended to the side lanes and blow them up.
Yeah. Interesting to see. We're now going to send over to Fish, who's standing by for an interview with the Hong Kong Attitude support.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Kaiwing, the support for Hong Kong Attitude after their victory over Rampage. You guys have played Rampage twice now. What did you expect going into these games against Rampage?
首先恭喜你们获得刚刚那一场比赛的胜利。那你们现在已经对上他们2次了，他们的胜利。在面对他们之前，你对他们的期待是什么？就是在跟他们比赛之前。
因为RPG 这个队，
对
RPG 这个队，我跟他们自己是团练的，就是我们很清楚，也是比 FB 更了解他们的角色啊，他们的打法是什么，所以我们在比赛上面就很容易可以针对他们的套路，然后来一些战术套路，去赢下游戏。
So Rampage is a team that we script a lot against, so we're familiar with them, we're familiar with their champion pools and how they play, so it's just easier for us to play against them and win against them.
Well, that's great to hear. Second question I want to ask you is, you guys went up against 1907 Fenerbahce yesterday, and it was an upset victory for them. You guys lost. What was the morale of the team like after that defeat? What were you guys talking about after that loss against Fenerbahce?
昨天你们对上了 FB， 那表现不如预期。那在经历那场比赛之后，你们团队心态如何？那你们做了什么样的讨论跟改变呢？
因为昨天我们打 FB 的时候输了，也是蛮意外的，因为有一些我的确定啊，就是我比如说我的郑娜没有玩的预期中怎么好啊，然后我们有一些配合啊，而且跟阵容来说，因为我们阵容只有开团只有大树一个，然后我们其他4个也是没办法开团的，然后对面有5个以上，就是很多的开团，然后可以打我们，所以我们拖到后面的话都很难赢。
So we were actually pretty surprised that we lost. I didn't perform really well on my Janna, and plus their team comp had like 5 champions that could start a team fight. As for us, we only had one champion, so we were pretty sad that we lost.
Well, you're going to be able to get the rematch later on. 然后我最后一个问题就是，你们有多大的自信，今天能2比0吗？
很大自信，今天一定。
I'm pretty confident we're definitely going to have a 2-0.
Well, that's great to hear, Kaiwing. Good luck later on. We're going to send it to a very quick break. Back with more games later on.
Will it be too little too late? No, it is not. As Remus comes in, first blood's going to be on Tunzel. Yutari Mayashi is going to get a knockback but Galio's right behind him, and even though Evie's there, it's not going to be nearly enough. Even Mission coming in, not needed for the cleanup duty. Can they get the kills off? Godpoint not quite going down. They've got a taunt up onto the Tristana. Yutori Miyachi going down to Mission's ultimate. There's the lockdown on the Rumble, and in comes Reris. The gang squad was real. That's a big shield. Baron gets smited on down, and Reris is still holding on to everyone from Rampage. Reris even claiming a kill for himself, while the rest of the team is bringing up the rear. That's a double kill. That Galio deals some serious damage. Shield of Duran, Ramane stunned up. Scout of the Weekend unified with the last hit, and this is going to be all she wrote for Hong Kong Attitude. This is the start. This team wants to be top 16. And welcome back to day 4 of the play-in stage here at Worlds 2017. We are turning towards our next game of the day, which is Chaos Lad Gamers versus Young Generation. Now let's get things started by looking at players fighting for their world's lives right now. KLG, of course, is going to be on one of the sides. I don't even know what side they're on. I'm going to check it out later. Because in the top lane, we've got Mastaraya. In the jungle, it's Tierwolf. Flugo on the mid. Fix in the bot lane with support Slow and their coach, Pierre.
And aiming to disrupt the group standings, it's Young Generation on the other side. In the top lane, it's now Nocti. Jungle, it's going to be Venus. Mid lane is Null. Big Koro is your ADC, and Pallet is your support.
Followed by Twonku, the coach. Absolutely. So yeah, now the first time these guys faced off, Young Generation looked completely outclassed after a laning phase that was okay-ish. A lot of mistakes.
I mean, that said, it was Young Generation that was pressing the envelope. You know, it was really that big, deep, mid-lane play where things started to turn around, where they tried to go all in, tried to blow up the Orianna, then things just got turned around sideways, and then it just snowballed from there. But until that point, Young Generation was looking very good, and that goes back to Null. The big thing that I want to see is we've had completely different night and day performances from him. His first game on Syndra, a little bit shaky. His 1v1 outkills on Caps, much better. So we need to see more of the Fnatic Young Generation and less of KLG Young Generation.
Unfortunately, they're playing up against KLG. You got to think they've learned a few lessons. Maybe you can chalk some of the performance on early up to World's nerves, if you will. But things change up a little bit for this team, especially with Noctis in the top lane, because he is the guy that got them the wins they needed to even qualify for Worlds. They had to first move their way in, and Ren was on the losing side of those. This is a very different style of player.
Yeah, and I want to really underline this topic. I know that a lot of what is defining Young Generation is the conversation around Gigabyte, but they are their own identity and they are their own team. And it's actually an upset for them to even make it here as the GPL second seed. You know, coming in, Ascension was the big favorite team. They reverse swept them. They decided to disrupt and come into it. So while Gigabyte Marines are kind of leading the charge and everyone knows that everyone grapples to their success, Young Generation, things have been a lot more turbulent. And so they're still just trying to find their own identity and their own footing, and that does start with Noctis up to that top lane. Much wider champion pool, much more diversified player, and with Young Generation trying to play these carry-oriented top laners like the Renekton, it does help having a more consistent top laner up there.
Stable, I think, is definitely a way I'd like to put it. And of course, you know, they can put him on things like the Galio. We saw what Rivers was able to do on that champion last game, and you know, that might just be exactly what they need to take a victory here, try and get one back. They need to be able to get wins to stay alive. Remember, they can really only force tiebreakers at this point. They got to be able to start winning every single one they've got left. Of course, it's definitely tough when you're in a group with Fnatic, even though they had a better performance against that team.
Yeah, it was much closer. That said, Fnatic's composition was made to kind of stay up late, but it kind of a little bit of a misstep when it came towards the mid game. But it goes again to the individual talents on the Young Generation roster. They do get a lot of scrim time with Marines. I know I just gave this whole speech like, no, they're their own person.
Team, but they script them a lot.
But they script them a lot. And you can see that in the individual talents, you know. Vietnam, massive voice, massive player base, and a lot of that talent is before. We have SOFM running around my region.
Oh, yeah.
Levi made his big debut on the international stage. And specifically, I know we're talking a lot about the top lane, but the AD carry, Big Koro for this team is actually a guy to watch for.
Absolutely. Now we're into picks and bans already. We haven't talked as much about KLG, but this is a team that's been looking pretty stable themselves, even at a 1-1 record. We start off by banning the Rek'Sai and the Syndra. Fresh follows suit on the other side.
The nice thing about Chaos Latin Gamers is how they've diversified their style over the course of 2017. They used to be the big, slow, you know, moving the chains, 35, 45-minute games, which makes them very stable in terms of their late game macro shot calling. But on the back half of their split, they started to speed things up, show that other side of aggression, and get early game snowballs rolling for them. So they have a lot of tools. They now need to prove that they can do it on an international stage.
Yeah, well, they've already proved it once against Young Generation. We'll see if they'll be able to do it again. Another jungler gets banned away. It's the Elise. And for YG's side, Kallista's off the board. The last ban coming from Sejuani. So Jungle Pool actually gonna hit pretty hard here. We'll see if KLG want to pick up a quick one for Tier Wolf.
And that's something that's pretty unique about Young Generation coming to this tournament. We haven't seen a ton of, you know, hyper-aggressive junglers. We've seen a couple of Sens popping their head up. Yeah, everyone likes the Jarvan, but I feel like he's more of a hybrid. And as the warrior junglers and the more aggressive junglers start to rotate back to the form, that's where a lot of power goes back to Venus. So I like the fact that they're denying him the Rek'Sai, denying him the Elise.
Yeah, but if Venus is definitely putting in some serious damage, I feel like Tier Wolf's going to be more like Mars, because at this point, he does a lot of damage in the early game himself. He's going to have a chance to end up being the one on the stage for it. Now, Young Generation get a chance to pick themselves up the Lover's bot lane, and they do. But KLG instantly on Kog'Maw and that Galio.
And we're not even going to pretend anymore. Galio is probably going up to the top lane. That's where he's really been situated. Matsuraya would be perfectly fine picking that up. He looked great on the Cho'Gath, so obviously can put on the tanks. But it could still technically be a flex pick. Yeah,
technically, of course. We could say the same thing about the Jarvan, I suppose, right? But this is all the makings of a good old protection comp, and you get the big front line. People can't really get in touch with the Kog'Maw anymore, and he's just pew-pewing. It does leave the Cho'Gath open, so Nocti's going to get a chance on that one.
So either feeling that they understand what the matchup's going to be and comfortable for Nocti to take the Cho'Gath, or just actually trying to deny that from Matsuraya. They already have the Galio. They don't also want to give off this Cho'Gath, who was able to solo kill Renekton yesterday.
Yeah, that was a little bit of an eye-opener for sure as that happened. And now we continue to see jungle bans from the side of KLG. It's Gragas off the board for Venus. That's been a favorite of his.
Get this jungler out of here. And now we're just trying to deny any sort of power juggernaut competition. Get rid of the big Ardent sensor sports.
Yeah, Lulu, Janna both removed, and Italy also banned away by KLG. So the definitely team's sticking to targeting one role on either side.
Yeah, I actually really like the fact that they're giving Venus so much respect. Again, Young Generation are one of those teams that slot in that they like to play more of the aggressive-oriented junglers. Italy certainly comes to mind. Lee Sin, like I said earlier, also comes to mind.
Yeah, well, once the envelope has been pushed, as you like to put it, he's going to be falling back on one of those. And Lee Sin coming in, we're going to expect some early plays out of that for sure. And back over to KLG to round out their composition. What do you see from them here?
Well, we need to figure out where all of these flex picks are going to go. It's obviously not going to be Galio support now that Alistar is being hovered right there and locked in. I love me some Alistar. He's been banned way too much for my preference here. And wow, okay, we needed our Ardent sensor somewhere, and it looks like we're going to get it in the mid lane.
All right, so Flugo picks up the Karma, and now we get to see the shuffle around as the last pickup Young Generation will be coming in. We still need themselves a mid laner.
Theoretically, he still doesn't know for sure what he's going to be facing. Right now in the LPL, they're playing a lot in solo queue Karma top lane, specifically into Cho'Gath, so that could still be a Karma top.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty safe bet to just say, forget it, give me Corki, I don't care what I'm up against, I can handle it. So, Nocti, he's somebody that can definitely handle a wide variety of things as well, but I think you have to expect that this is where the Galio is going to be.
Okay, but there we go. Now, I talked about the Ardent sensor. Naturally, it's not super comfortable for Alistar to build that one, so it's probably going to be given over to the response of Karma, who can look for that themed Ardent sensor type of build that they've only seen on the middle.
Yeah, and you can tell both these teams are going to be going all in on the global plays, a couple of teleports in the mid lane, as well as, of course, what Galio can get done. We saw a masterclass in that the last time both these teams. Very different style of composition, played to a very specific draft phase that they wanted for themselves. Looks like for KLG's side, it'll be all about that Kog'Maw in the later stages of the game, everything built around it, but it does seem a little bit more rounded from YG.
Yeah, I call it, again, bridging points of power. The fact that you have the Lee Sin, he can take over the early game, he's then handing the baton to Corki in the mid game, who then throws it over to Xayah into the late game. It's about where you attack now. Cho is notoriously fragile in the early game. Yes, it's only a Galio, but he is working in tandem with the Jarvan. So I would like to see Young Generation at least give some respect for Nocti to get out of the danger zone and into where Cho'Gath is pretty much unmovable from his lane.
Yeah, well, Nocti definitely knows a few things about being bullied in the early game. That was one of the ways they were able to find wins in their qualification for Worlds. Just kind of let him sit under tower and survive being wailed on. I wonder if Tierwolf decides to take a trip up there all the same as we load up onto Summoner's Rift. That's always the question when you watch Chaos Latin gamers. Where are they going to send their hyper-aggressive jungler?
Exactly. What is Tierwolf going to do? He is the big vocal guy for this team. I've talked a lot to you about what you guys think is your primary strength, and I get the same answer every single time. Communication. You know, this team, when it was formed in spring, they didn't expect to make it to Worlds. They were just looking at like long-term development, you know, surviving relegations, not falling down again, trying to fix some of the structural problems that they felt were in their team and build them up for you know, not today, but tomorrow. And then the communication started to come together. Tierwolf stepped up, Pluto being that veteran in the mid lane, you know, really stepping up his performance, and then everything came together for KLG, and suddenly in summer, they shifted gears and they decided, hey, we can actually go the distance.
Yeah, and here they are on the world stage, get to play a little bit of cowbell. This is nice for KLG to come back from, yeah, as you said, the relegation zone 4 months ago. What a journey it has been for this team to find themselves now in Wuhan.
A redemption story, really, for them, and now not just proving that, hey, this is our first appearance at Worlds, but we deserve to be here. We are the best that this region has to offer, and we can go that distance.
Yeah, story a little bit different, of course, for Young Generation, because, as you said, living perennially in the shadow of the Gigabyte Marines, they want to, you know, find their own identity, or at least demonstrate their own identity. Of course, they definitely still subscribe to some of the strong points that the Gigabyte Marines had to offer, but Big Koro is always looking as opposed to the jungler. Venus a little bit more on the supporting team.
Yeah, I mean, Big Koro just has this reputation. Gigabyte Marines coach Tinnakan, I talked a lot to him. He says that Big Koro, he's been working with the player for about 2 years now, is the guy to watch. This is, you know, the coach that discovered someone like SOFM, discovered Levi's talent, trained those guys up. He says, no, Big Koro, this is the next big player coming out of Vietnam.
We'll see if he's able to stand up and deliver for sure. Of course, Xayah Rakan, he's definitely set up for success, and we talked a lot about Tierwolf and what he can get done early. But facing him down, Venus, Lee Sin, that's what you want to do. That's what you need to do. Because your effectiveness will wane the longer the game goes on regardless. you got to think that's what KLG will want anyways.
But it's also about setting the expectations of what Tierwolf actually brings to the team. This isn't, you know, a 1v1 dueling-oriented jungler. Yes, he can be that carry. Yes, he is very aggressive.
Seen a lot of LPL Jarvans over the years.
But it's about how he plugs into his team, specifically with Plugo. The more time that Tierwolf is spent roaming around with Plugo, the more time that these guys get unlocked and they're able to, you know, double team either the side of the map or an invade jungle, that's where KLG finds a lot of their success. So just watch how Tierwolf moves around Plugo and how Plugo moves around.
For the time being, Plugo, or Tierwolf rather, is moving around Venus and is finding Nocti, making his way down as Venus says, thank you very much, I'll take the leash on the red.
And unfortunately, that does throw a wrench into Tierwolf's plans, means that his jungle's going to be a little bit slower. You can already see him level 2, and he's trying to compensate for that by grabbing the Rift Scepter.
Oh, Venus might not even let him get away with it here. Level 2, level 3, oh dear.
And he doesn't have his smite, so he can't just turn and burn it. So giving a lot of respect to this Lee Sin pick, which, you know, I like Tierwolf. There's no reason to throw away an early game on, you know, a Rift Scepter.
Yeah, and they do have very late game, right? This is a Kog'Maw composition. You're going to be building Ardent Sensor on your mid lane, so for the time being, it's okay to see a little bit of early pressure rather than giving up a lot of kills and allowing that snowball to happen.
And Venus understanding that he can do this because he does have the pressure in the top lane, in the mid lane, but maybe his luck runs out.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tierwolf says enough is enough.
Hello.
On the spicy this time. It's a battle of double buffs, but I don't know if Tierwolf wants to keep going. Flugo wasn't quite in range to respond. Check back in with the bottom lane. Fix and Slow already stopped up under tower. We saw a little bit of early game harassment on Fix. He's already healed back up to full, but unfortunately Slow can't say the same.
Talon can be pretty frisky though underneath that tower. Does need to be a little bit careful about how that interaction with Alistar is going to work.
Yeah.
You never know if Slow's going to turn on the aggression. He is known as more of a playmaking oriented support.
Yeah. Although Pallet on a playmaker support of his own definitely can make things happen pretty quickly. That's a nice double knockup. Pallet's already going to be out. Fix can't really do a whole lot of damage early on, just sitting on the Doran shield. And Tierwolf is having a hard time, even from Dowell here. Lugo goes in for a little bit of relief effort, but maybe he wishes he didn't.
Yeah, young generations just have Tierwolf's number. They understand where a lot of the pieces of KLG start fitting together, that it starts with that jungler, and they are just throwing everything in the kitchen sink into this guy's jungle. Contesting wolves, contesting raptors, now looking at stealing his Krug camp. The guy has a family.
Yeah, and unfortunately they're going to go hungry right now. Tierwolf does not have much he can do inside this jungle.
It also means that he has a clear gank path down bottom. Now, there's no vision for KLG into that Tri-Brush, so if Venus retains his health, which he is going to smite, he can feel comfortable looking for a gank behind Ali.
Oh, he might just be able to do it too. They're pushed up.
He's going to walk into Jarvan, though. I think Venus is just going to exit over the wall, use the blast code to escape.
Yeah, they see him. I was about to say, maybe he'll go for the spicy 1v1, but I feel like that's not going to go well for him with Slow and Fix nearby.
Definitely not with a back on Jarvan.
Yeah, that's fair. He's already got an upgrade. See the farm differential, of course, because Venus is pretty much just living inside of that jungle for a while, but now his own is going to start setting back up. They see Jarvan hanging around. And of course, the ward in the River Brush. Finland, we haven't talked too much about this, but it's already been a decent lead built up, or a CS lead built up for now. Oh, you see Plugo had already had to spend his flash to just get away from the 2v1 earlier on, trying to save Tierwolf's jungle.
Unfortunately, I feel like it is going to be a bit of a free lane for Corki, unless that happens.
Yep.
Jarvan.
Okay, Mantra Q, Tierwolf on the way. There's the slow flag drag and flash away. Owl turns it back with the Gatling gun, and Tierwolf can't get anything else done. It does take another inner flame to the face.
But that's now both flashes down for the mid laners, so ripe for the picking for the junglers, and it's going to be wash and repeat.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's return ganks, but that is a little bit of a quick turnaround time, and Tierwolf can't quite take it, especially not with Nocti hanging around. He even made the trip to the top lane.
And that's twice now that Nocti's been able to unlock himself from his lane and add, you know, benefit pressure to whatever his mid laner or his jungler are trying to do, and he's keeping up fairly even in CS.
Yeah, okay. Fix already getting some damage back out onto Big Koro.
What about the jungle?
Yeah, we're going to get a little bit more action up towards that mid lane, but there's still a lot of auto attacks flying down to the bottom. It looks like Tierwolf and Plugo actually kind of got forced back. A lot of vision placed down. He might have wanted to fight that.
But it did force Galio to also respond, which means that Nocti gets even more time alone. He is pushing in a big creep wave, but is retaining the CS lead. Just a little bit of a smidgen of a CS lead.
Yeah, but this is where it starts to happen. The Galio just hits level 6. Now he's got his ultimate available to try and get into those fights a little faster. And that's not something Nocti can quite match. He's got a teleport, but it's not the same.
But that does mean that he's just going to pressure forward, keep the Galio locked in. He also has, you know, multiple ways to disrupt if it does come to a TP off as opposed to a, Hero's entrance off.
I guess one is only one way. Yeah, I think
Lift off?
I think you could just say stand up. Most people understand what you're saying, Frost.
I don't know, I'm thinking about like his jump up.
Oh, it is a lift off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you meant matching TPs.
Galio never skips leg day. His
No, he
legs
doesn't.
are huge.
He's definitely squad goals for sure.
Mentoraya, though, is making use of his roam pressure. He knew that Nocti was back into the base, and so he pressured the wave forward, lost vision, although I think he was spotted out by the ward that he's walking over right now. So Young Generation should have some idea that he's placed deep down around that red buff that will be spawning.
Yeah, they have a lot of river vision of their own. It's going to be difficult for YG kind of push back, especially in this bottom side. Fix is having a field day, in all honesty. They haven't had a whole lot of jungle attention bot, but the Kog'Maw, that is the late game fine, and he's doing just fine.
Yeah, and Fix is a big name right now. I think that he's kind of a standout AD carry for his region personally in watching him. The thing is he's very young, and he doesn't quite understand when it's safe to do things, and so sometimes he puts himself in a little bit of questionable decisions. But at the same time, you have to congratulate him of having that bloodthirst. It's pretty hard to train that into a player. You would almost rather that they have it instilled into them and then teach them how to rein back the aggression.
That is exactly the recipe for an AD carry, for sure. Now, Pallet, he's stepping a little far forward. Not necessarily respecting what Slow could do. Still only on level 5, so no quickness. Nocti is going to steal away. A little bit of snack attack on the blue buff there.
Yeah, feeling really comfortable because Null has pressure on Karma. Naturally, the second rotation of blue buff is going to be handed over for Karma. So if she's unable to roam over, it means that it's not being prepared for her. Gives him the go-ahead that, hey, no one's probably here. I'd probably just snack, walk away.
Hate to eat and run, but apparently that's what he does. Now Noel, back into mid lane, level 8 to level 7 advantage on this Corki. And you mentioned, of course, the free lane, maybe not necessarily when the junglers are involved, but in a 1v1 situation, it's going to be hard for Pluto to really match, especially when he's going to be building towards that Arctic Sensor.
Hold on.
Careful. Sonic Wave, just a hair's breadth away.
Trying to set up a trap there. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just going to be pushing waves back and forth. The thing, though, is that if Null's feeling confident that he can out-trade or trade around the Karma, then he's going to be pushing forward aggressively and then looking for those avenues when he has package to make roams. And that's when things are going to be explosive for probably this game. I mean, there's so much dive potential. I'm thinking that. I was like, there's so much dive potential bottom, but do you really want to dive in Alistar?
Probably not. If you get to the Kog'Maw, I guess it's worth. I guess we'll find out if Venus still hanging around.
Barrier heal.
Yeah, that's true. Deerwolf, okay. Oh, he finds Noel and Venus. Kick back into Pallet. Oh, he thought his own neighborhood was safe, but not anymore.
So the play still stands. They wanted to go bottom. I was questioning if you wanted to dive the Alistar. It doesn't matter if you find the jungler alone on the Krug camp, but the same mentality didn't involve the package, but did get that Corki with the free roam, because again, it's just pushing back and forth in this mid lane, and Corki gets inside trap.
And once again, we get to see it. So Tierwolf, a little bit of hesitation. Well, as soon as he throws the flag and drag in, uh-oh, kick back into the first blood.
Yeah, and frankly, this is just a great game for Young Generation and understanding what makes KLG strong, which is starting with Tierwolf. If you lock him down, you slow down the communication, you slow down one of the primary shot callers of the team, and suddenly they start to flounder around or fall apart.
And this Gold Lead, and as well as the Dragon, already a little more significant than what we saw the last time they met. Remember, they did build a modest lead in the opening game of the World's Play-In stage, but, well, game 3, I mean, but they just didn't really do much after that. There was a lot of misplays individually.
But a big problem was the misplays that were happening in top lane, and that is a completely different story this time around. Nocti is up, what, 20 CS, pretty strong, feeling very confident. He's now at the stage in Shogoth where he's never going to be moved from this top lane. He's going to be feeling very safe, very confident, and all he needs to do is keep tabs on Galio. Have the wave constantly pressured forward, have the vision underneath him so he can do that, and just make sure that Galio is not able to impact the rest of the match.
Yeah, and he's mobile enough to be able to match. Not only does he have the teleport, of course, if it's available, neither top laner wanting to pull the trigger on that summoner. He starts off at finishing out the boots. So he's really able to make a little move faster. Galio, not quite matching it, of course. He might not get late game, but apparently he got some legs.
Those are some Pumas. He's an Adidas guy.
Okay, fair enough. But 11 minutes in, we've only got first blood. It's on YG. They've got a lot of tools in their kit, but I feel like the game plan for Chaos Latin Gamers, of course, is always going to be this Kog'Maw, and if he doesn't get shut down, he's happy.
Well, it's also against Zaya, though, especially in tandem with Rakan. This duo will snowball so well into the late game. Yeah, it's hard to match the true range, reach, and damage output of a Kog'Maw, but Zaya gets pretty close.
Not to mention they'll be able to start closing gaps pretty well. And I like what Venus has been able to do, not just in shutting down Tierwolf in this game so far, but in denying him so much farm, getting a whole lot of vision. They can spot out any aggressive attempts. KLG And they know that there's not going to be a whole lot of aggression coming out of the mid. You got a Karma. The Galio up top is going to try and push and hold lane. So bottom lane's the only one you really got to worry about.
Yeah, and it's really understanding the fact that there's not a lot of kill pressure there. You know, kind of miss the window to attack the lane or attack the top side when both those top laners are fragile. You're looking at Rakan or Alistar, so it's not going to feel great to go down there unless you're multiple members, which looks like they're trying to set up right now. So it was just about invading and attacking Tier 1 and trying to isolate that 1v1 jungle matchup.
Well, they're about to isolate a lot more than that. Corki on the Trinity Force power spike.
Still need to be really respectful and not get overzealous with this. It's still an Alistar, he's got his ultimate, so I think you focus on the tower instead of looking for the dive.
Yep, trying to play the objective focus game. Of course, they're going to bring in some backup as well with Venus still sitting here. They just make the wrap around and trying to get a few more wards and change them that they don't see here, Wolf, so they don't feel comfortable going further.
Exactly that. You can see the Jarvan is actually backing at the inner tower, so everyone knew it was up. Everyone was kind of testing the waters about what might happen bot lane, but in the end, you don't want to gamble or throw away something on just a risky bot lane dive.
Yeah, this is the development we're starting to see out of YG. I mentioned earlier on in the game that the last time they met, it seemed like the team a little fidgety, a little nervous maybe, not making the right plays always at the right time, but this is a lot cleaner League of Legends. It's much more like we saw up against Fnatic, despite them not being able to pick up the win there. We questioned what type of team would show up on this game. So far, it's looking like the better young generation.
Well, it makes sense that they would slow down a little bit just naturally because of their competition. They're still waiting for bigger power spikes. Yes, Corki has his Trinity Force, but he wasn't able to utilize the package very aggressively. But right now, it's continuing to exploit the jungle. There's not a lot of opportunity and kill pressure in the individual lanes, but like I said, just keep blitzing into Tier Wolf's face.
Yeah, and just keep grabbing that gold lead a little bit slower every time. 2,000 is the lead they have now, and you know, the more you do, the more you starve out the jungler, the better you can actually do once the map starts opening up to try and force those fights, because he's not going to be on the same level.
And the only concern then is that, yes, they didn't give a lot of attention into trying to shut down the Cosmos. But if they're confident enough that come the 5v5s or come mid and late game, that, you know, Venus can fly into the back and can find that Cosmo, or, you know, maybe Cho'Gath flashes forward and just noms him. There's zero counterplay to that type of maneuver, so it could just be that it's not a bad read for young generation to try to shut down Cogma, but they're just confident enough that if it goes late game, they're better.
Yeah, and when you have a composition that pretty much has one clear win condition, it does paint a giant target on its back, as opposed to the multiple tools the young generation have. The Corki's still going to do a serious amount of damage. You mentioned the Cho'Gath. I mean, there's not that many champions you can build full tank on and then just, okay, I'm going to blow somebody up.
It's great to play against.
It's super interactive.
I love the counterplay.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, young generation's other top laner faced that off the last time. Montario was the one that had the Cho'Gath, and he started to do that to a Ren.
That guy should never get Cho'Gath again. It was disgusting what he was able to output against Ren. Here we go. And no, we don't.
Wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah, I mean, it's what you're talking about, lack of kill pressure, right? Like, you can put the harm leash on, but at the end of the day, no ult can just jet off.
Flying out. And slow, he does have Jarvan behind him, so you can already see that he wants to be a bit more aggressive, but trying to pick which target. You want the Xayah, but then Rakan's just going to go in, try to protect her, create space for her.
Yeah. I feel like Fix has got to be a little careful. You talked about him being the slightly maybe over-aggressive AD carry, and if he's not behind the Alistar, you might find yourself face first into a Rakan ultimate.
But they need to pull the trigger now, KLG, and make this play happen bottom, because Venus and Null are going to be on the way. They're probably going to shove one more wave and then make the rotation bot. So the window is closing for them to have a numbers advantage here.
Yeah, the map is opening up right now with that tower knocked down in the mid lane. You can see Null just having a pretty good time, and of course, so far, he's pretty much par for the course in the mid lane. We're starting to see him really step up, especially after their first performance.
I mean, that said, it was frankly an easy matchup for him. He just pretty much did his job. It's now how he transfers that into the mid game, because he is the big power spike. In fact, already he's just like Trinity Force, Infinity Edge. Most expensive build, let's go.
Yeah, and he's even got the boost to get a little bit extra mobility starting things off. And wouldn't you know, it's 10 seconds and another Infernal Drake. We've really been graced by a whole lot of Dragon RNG this Worlds.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because it's the Rage Blade rush from Kog'Maw, it feels really uncomfortable at this point in the game. Like, the Infernal is spawning, he needs to make his back, and yeah, you can argue that maybe the backs are mistimed, but they don't want to fight this because it feels really bad to fight when you have your AD item, your AP item, and you're just like in between any of those points.
Bit of an awkward time, right? But for YG, he talked about them kind of building up each other and having one of those compositions that sort of, you know, it supports its own scaling. It's a smooth curve up, and it's working perfectly for them right now, and there's not a whole lot of chance to contest, so that's 2 Infernals, 16% bonus AD and AP. for the Young Generation squad.
Yeah, and that's going to be devastating because it is a Corki, it is a Xayah, so that double Infernal will do so much work for them in about, 10 minutes. So any sort of gold lead that KLG might match is just going to be out-ramped by the double Infernal and what that offers in terms of, power advantage. Now, on the other side of that, the next dragon is Mountain, still very valuable. It'll spawn around 22 minutes, and Kog'Maw will actually be in a perfect spot to fight, as well as because the Ardent Censer will be completed by Karma, and he'll also have his second item.
But we will have to see the game state at that point, right? That's still some minutes away, and Young Generation, I mean, if they can keep this ball rolling right now, this has got to be such a good confidence booster for them, because remember, despite the fact that we saw improved performance from this team over their debut, they're still 0-2 down. They have to win out to have any chance of moving on to the next round, and so far so good, but one mistake can start to turn the tide.
But it's about where those mistakes will happen. You can see, again, Tierwolf, he's been repeatedly down into the bottom lane. I feel like they're just waiting for Big Koro and Pallet to make the rotation towards top side. Again, without Infernal, there's not a lot of reason to be bottom. They probably want to move their objective priority towards that Rift Herald, and he's just trying to catch them out of position so they can use the Jarvan to burn down that tower trade. So KLG understand that they don't want to fight right now, that it's not in their advantage. They just want to try to trade objectives.
Yeah, Mantaraya knows that better than a lot, so seeding off the tower pressure in the top because he knows that the rest of his team, they're in the bottom side. However, there's a teleport coming in. Young Generation, they do want to fight, pulling the trigger, getting the root off on two, and in comes the Corki. It's a special delivery, and I don't think Fix wanted to ring that bell. It's going to be one tower taken down by Venus. Meanwhile, the fight is on 5v4 in the bottom, but YG, they look like they're getting the better of it. One more knock-up, and Nocti is not perturbed by that. See, going back in, Inspire, and there's a root on Mantaraya.
Yeah, but they retain their health bars. Kog'Maw wasn't killed, and Galio threatening the dive.
Oh dear, Nocti, he's gonna give it, or is he still staying alive through the root? Gets the eat on Mantaraya, flashes away to the safety of behind the rest of his team, and now KLG in trouble.
And again, I'm not gonna blame KLG. I agreed with what they were trying to do, but Young Generation, they understood we are stronger now, we wanna fight, and it doesn't matter if we fight 5v5 or 4v5. Corki flew in, they forced KLG off the tower, and meanwhile, Lee Sin was able to pick up top tower and Rift Herald.
Yeah, that's gotta be a great thing for the jungler. Oh, I'm Lee Sin, I'm supposed to do things early game. I guess I'll just go and play PvE while my team hard carries.
And that's just so unfortunate. Like, if you're a KLG fan, that feels bad because you're like, yes, I completely agree with the team. They're not strong enough to look for the 5v5, so they're gonna abuse the numbers advantage and just try to trade tower for tower. But Young Generation are like, nah, man, you are going to fight us and we are going to win. And unfortunately, KLG, it looks good initially. Fix is able to disengage, he saved, the Kog'Maw didn't initially die, you're like, perfect. KLG are going to get the trade back, but then unfortunately, Galio just overreaches slightly and the tower does so much work for Young Generation.
Yeah, I cannot believe Nocti didn't die. Turns around, gets a nom off, I guess. At the end of the day, the Cho'Gath just a little bit bigger than the Galio.
Catching, 3 members there with his Rupture?
Oh yeah, that too. And at this point, he's not getting any smaller. He's got the Warmogs completed, steals away Raptors. Tierwolf still doesn't own his own jungle. This guy's having a bad time.
He's, 68 to 109? It's not fun.
Yeah.
And now the teleport being forced out.
Oh boy, Fix. Yeah, can't really spot him back. Nocti just hanging on and pushing them continually.
But this is multiple members for KLG just trying to pressure Young Generation on the bottom side of the map. Meanwhile, the Rift Herald is still in possession of Venus. If he gets this wave prepped and if Xayah and Rakan actually rotate it down, they could just exploit other areas on the map while KLG are busy down here.
Yeah, but YG, they find themselves a little bit outgunned. Fix gets 1 kill on the board. That's the first for Chaos Latin Gamers. Nocti, let's see how tough he can hang under this tower. This time, no help is coming, so get the pit. Looks like Nocti's gonna try to buy a little bit of time with his health bar. Fix gets 2, but look what's happening up top.
Exactly, and this is the play that KLG were trying to get. They will get the tower, but like I said, while all of the attention is being pulled bottom, it's just an easy Rift Herald into an inner tower, and they're now sieging into the inhib.
Yeah, much needed gold on the side of Fix. However, they're gonna pay dearly for it because Mantaraya, trying to hold on here, finds another Rift Herald headbutting into that tower, and they'll be able to clear it away, but still, that's some serious chip damage that Young Generation managed to bring.
And still a massive trade-up for Young Generation, particularly around the Baron control. The creeps are going to get that far forward, or that much farther forward down the top side of the map, and now they just need to start moving and creeping in their vision after they take down the mountain.
Yeah, grabbing as much jungle as they can on the way out. Making out like bandits. Tierwolf is just finding himself completely starved out this game, just taking a look at the gold that he's got for himself compared to Venus. I mean, he's down almost 2,000, man. Just can't catch a break.
Now, the green light for KLG is the fact that, like I said, the 22-minute Dragon is going to spawn. They are in a much more comfortable position to fight. They've got the 2 items completed on Kog'Maw, the Hurricane as well as the Rage Blade. The Ardent Sensor and the Athenes are available for Karma. So before, when they stepped off of the Infernal Dragon, they understood we're not strong enough to fight. Now, this time around, they can feel confident stepping to if they get their vision in place.
It's still not going to be easy, though, because at this point, Nocti is nearly at raid boss status, so I feel like you're going to need more than 1 DPS to take him down, although doing a little damage there. Venus still in for the relief effort, and Slow and Plugo were waiting out in the brush, so a lot of investment from Chaos Latin Gamers up towards the top side. That means no one's there to defend Nowell on the bottom.
And it also means that no one's able to defend this Mountain Dragon. Mountain Dragon, yes, it takes a long time to go down, but he's one of the gentle giants of the Rift. So if Nowell wants to take this tower, he can just solo Mountain afterwards.
Yeah, pretty easily, and Mantaraya knows he can't really defend against the Corkster. That's going to be 1 shot taking it out. He just keeps on pushing, actually. Chaos Latin Gamers really giving ground to the young generation.
Yeah, might as well. He knows that no one's going to come to stop him. Feels confident because he's got the ward on the Raptor camp, so he can see exactly where Tierwolf is on that Jarvan. And he's just going to continue to be a nuisance.
Nuisances. Every time I think Tierwolf has free jungle, someone steals something from him. This time it's Pallet. Oh, I feel bad for that guy.
He's not getting a lot of gold.
No, definitely.
He's falling on hard times.
Well, there's always next game, I suppose, but for the time being, there's still a lot of chances for KLG to get back into this.
Gold down, Venus.
Yeah, he's clearly still going to be able to help them as far as utility goes and cataclysms and things like that, but for young generation, this is the time that they feel pretty confident, even though the Kog'Maw has some kills, has some gold. KLG, they might get collapsed on here, or will it be young generation that step too far forward? Pallet, he has to go quick. And it looks like Tierwolf gets the pit on, but it doesn't matter. He's going to be jumping right back. Fix gets 1 kill to start things off. Now just trying to look tasty as KLG on the chase. Living Artillery, 1 shot, 2 shot. Young generation, there's Big Core running back. Nocti takes down Tierwolf right off the end of it. Looks like 2 roots down. Slow's gonna have to flash away. Plugo and Fix turn things out. Can they get the damage on Mantaraya? Trying to go for the dive under tower, but it's a shutdown. As Big Koro does go big, and as the dust settles right now, it looks like young generation getting the better of it. But it looks real tense for a moment.
Yeah, Fix tried to go Super Saiyan, tried to carry his team, but it was really Nocti, and now with that Warmox kicking in, are they moving over to Baron?
Well, they might just do. That's some serious death timer still, even though it's only 24 minutes in. Young generation, they know they've got the firepower to burn this one down. Tierwolf still 5 seconds from respawn. Mantaraya trying to disrupt, but I don't think it's going to happen. A couple more auto attacks, gets the root. Taunt doesn't really matter. No, even finds the APM to spam his buttons and get himself some swag at the end of that one. So smited down Baron at 24.5 minutes for young generation.
Exactly, successful team fight into the Baron, and this is a huge swing of power for young generation. We take a look back at the fight. Again, I understand what KLG are trying to go for. They feel strong. They have the Ardent Sensor, they have the 2-item power spike. I understand exactly why they set up for this. It's unfortunate that Fix just can't go the distance, and a lot of that is on Nocti. He arrives later to the fight, but it's the fact of how he uses it. He immediately kills Karma with the silence, then grabs Fix, does huge amounts of damage to him by just chomping on his face, and then zones Plugo and Fix away until the rest of his team is able to show up and clean up the back half.
Yep. Very hectic fight inside of that jungle, but you can see a lot of the difference in itemization really helping YG put things away. Not to mention the couple of dragons. That Jarvan pretty much died at the very end of it from the package Valk wake.
I mean, he's pretty much got cardboard armor, just like duct taped to him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Demacian coffers are a little empty these days. 25 minutes in, young generation rocking a pretty significant gold lead, as well as the Mountain Dragon. Now it's finished up, and it looks like the next lane to push is going to be all of them.
The easiest tower to secure is going to be that last standing inner tower in the bottom lane, which is what Nall is setting up right now. I expect that the mid lane will be shoved 1 more wave, and then the rest of his team will rotate down and join him. And it's simply because it's that much easier to threaten a dive.
Yeah, despite the fact that Fix is definitely starting to ramp up on this Kog'Maw, he just can't do enough to try and push back young generation. Firing now with 3 members and the Baron powered minions on the inner in the mid. Down it'll go, 26 minutes on the clock. It looks like YG looking to close this one out soon, and such relief for this team that started out their Worlds Experience 0 and 2. If they can put this one away with a W in the books, they'll be pretty happy that they still have a chance. Now, Nocti taking up 3. Tierwolf jumps mid, but I don't know if he wants this Thunderdome to go on. Nocti just gets a numb on, and Tierwolf having to back away. Rupture, flag, drag. They will be able to shut him down. Fix has got a 4th kill of his own.
But what did they lose in return? It's the bot and hip tower. It's massive damage on the mid tower. And Venus is like, get out of here.
Yeah. Young Generation not even bothering to fight his fight because they realize that KLG just can't push them back time and again, so base broken open on the bottom as well.
But not breaking one of the inhibs is a pretty big deal for Young Generation. You know, if they had grouped up with Nocti, they decided that they wanted to apply the Baron in every single lane, try to apply so much pressure across map and split up KLG. Makes sense, they are confident about the Kog'Maw, so they wanted to grouped up, but it leads to situations like this.
Yeah, now unfortunately finding himself without a whole lot of allies, trusted that he'd be able to get out of harm's way, and not the case this time around.
Quick, they've killed the Corki, get to the base!
Yeah, tag time. All right, Big Koro and Pallet on the inhib, teleport coming in, and the rest of KLG coming, and I don't know if Young Generation's bottom lane will be able to get out of this one nice and safe, but they realize they might just be able to kill Fix before it happens. That is a lot of shields right there, and I don't know if YG can take this fight as the teleport's about to finish. Nocti comes in, it's a shutdown for Fix onto Big Koro, but it's still a melee in the mid. And now Venus working his way through the last few hits of that tower as they decide to turn back in on the fight. Mantarraya gets the charm, stun up onto 2, looking for Nocti, and he just keeps tanking everything. Pallet, he's gonna have to swap his way out as he's a little low on the health bar, but there's a front line right there to clear away the rest of this inhib.
With Kog'Maw dead, there is no one to stop Nocti. He can sit there for as long as he wants. I mean, that was just the least in the recon. He's like, nah guys, we got this. Just keep hitting the inhib.
Big old Shogath, adaptive helm, Warmog's armor, everything. He is very, very difficult for them to kill.
I just love the fact that Young Generation just like doubled down. They're like, you know, we could fight as 5, or we could just continue to throw our bodies at these inhibs.
They do like to skirmish. One thing watching this team as they qualify for Worlds, they kind of thrive off maybe pre-planned, but nonetheless very hectic fights that don't always have all 10 members of each team involved.
And again, that makes sense when you look at KLG's composition. You don't want that comp to stand together as 5 and allow them to just, you know, buff up the Kog'Maw with everything.
We saw those shields though, right?
Exactly. If you split them up, then the Kog'Maw becomes that much more fragile, or if he's not in position, they don't have the appropriate wave clear, and you can start to pick things off or chip away at base.
All right, well, they might be able to chip away at a little bit more of the Pallet's health bar. Still mobile enough on the recon, so the Death Rush not entirely effective, but it does result in burning the quickness. Still, without 2 inhibitors in the top and mid, the third's looking mighty tasty for Young Generation to try and push their way in, and Noel's got another package to deliver.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the ping, so they're just trying to flood or smother KLG's base, getting all of these super creeps waves coming in at the same time as they're contesting this bot inhib.
Yeah, playing it out nice and easy. Close things out. This would be great for Young Generation to try and get a W on the board, give them a chance to still qualify for the elimination stage. It's not but Nexus Towers left for Chaos Latin Gamers. Can they hold together?
This is where we hold them.
All right. I don't see no Pantheon though, unfortunately. Chaos Latin Gamers are going to have to find something out of nowhere. 300 Spartans might be hiding behind that fountain. We'll see. Nocti getting the knock up. There's the Featherstorm coming out. A few speed ups, but there's no damage. They've already lost 1 Nexus turret. Tierwolf looking for Noel, but the rest of Young Generation turn forward. Venus gonna get a kick off. Tierwolf gets the Thunderdome on, but it doesn't matter. Noel is still able to fire over the edge of the pit. Slow going in, gets a knockback, finding Pallet. Mantarraya makes a hero's entrance, and that's 1 kill to start off this fight.
Fix
but
is
Chaos
still
Latin
going.
Gamers, they've already found 2. Fix is still looking massive right now, but is it going to be enough? Noel gets Mantarraya, and 1 by 1 the protectors fall, and so does the Kog'Maw. A double kill for Noel, and there's nothing but the base. 30 minutes exact on the clock. Young Generation staying alive and take the win over KLG.
I mean, it was a 20K gold difference in the end, so Fitz tried to do what he could, but he just couldn't go Super Saiyan enough as Young Generation just mow over Chaos Latin Gamers.
Yeah, we're going to need a couple more episodes of training montage before that Kog'Maw was going to be able to outscale. What a massive victory for Young Generation. And we've seen this team look a little bit better every single game they've played so far at Worlds. It's a long climb to try and make it to the elimination round, but they might just be able to do it.
And Nocti is a huge upgrade, I feel. Rin really struggled against Mantarraya up into that top lane. Nocti had no problems there, built up a CS lead, was able to constantly be applying pressure, diving into the jungle, sealing away the blue buff, executing perfectly in team fights, you know, getting into that backline, denying Fix the big dragon fight that they really needed to turn that game around.
Yep. It's a little bit of a heartbreaker for Chaos Latin Gamers, and they were looking pretty solid on their first day of play. But it just wasn't quite enough, and now they find themselves in a 1-2 situation.
Yeah, but I feel like that was more of like a draft thing. It's so hard. Chaos Latin Gamers, they don't like best of 5, or they don't like best of 1. They prefer to be in a best of 3 or a best of 5 format. Again, the strength of that team is their conflict resolution, their ability to adapt, and their communication. So in these short bursts, when they get 1 chance, 1 opportunity, and they fall short, that feels bad because they feel like they're not able to exploit their greatest strength.
Well, we'll discuss this post a little bit later today, but all the same, Young Generation flipping it back for these guys. Long climb, but it's looking really good for them at the moment.
Yeah, it's looking great. And again, huge credit to that top laner, Nocti. Yeah, it's just the Cho'Gath, so I'd love to see him on, more champions to see if he can diversify that style, be a threat in more opportunities. But right now, thumbs up.
Yeah, we're going to see a few more chances of that for sure. Now, to hear more about that YG win, we're sending it over to Draco.
Rusty with a quick thumbs up because he predicted correctly YG is strong in the rematch.
Off camera doesn't count.
I wanted to, we didn't get a pre-game mark. I couldn't actually say it. I thought that would get
Technically, Mark is right. It does not count. But the first thing I want to jump into is the pick and ban phase because it does feel a little bit like, I feel like there's a clear goal here for KLG. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you have J4 Galio and Alistar, so you have a lot of playmaking tools. You have a Kog'Maw and a Kog'Maw, so you have one damage threat, a lot of dive tools and one damage threat. You probably want to force plays around that damage threat to get him some kills.
Yep, certainly seems to be the case. Contrast that to our opponents, maybe a bit more well-rounded. Things do make a lot of sense still on both sides of the field. One's a bit more one-dimensional, and you'd say that maybe Young Generation's comp's harder to execute upon, but still they got the victory. They executed well enough.
And I think the first thing we have to embrace is that Nocti does look very solid on the top side of the map. And while he did not necessarily hard carry the game, he also was not a liability, and I think that was a big win for Young Generation.
Yeah, they just needed more stability, generally speaking, and he went up there by 20 minutes. I think he had a 30 CS lead. At one point, he had stolen the blue buff, so overall, he was still a net positive impact on the game, as well as the fact that he wasn't making any mistakes in team fights and things like that.
Yeah, the big thing with Ren as well that we noticed is good and bad player, of course, but he also made these really crucial big mistakes that just outright lost games, where Nocti looked stable, looked solid every time he was caught. He was actually making space for the rest of the map because they were pushing for him.
All right, creating a little bit of space. Well, let's take a look at our first replay highlight. Yes, he is kind of a high-risk player, but also feels like KLG trying to play that strategy where they put everything on the bot side.
Yeah, but this is coming 18 minutes into the game. This is super late. They had already accrued massive deficits in the top and mid, as well as the fact that they already lost their mid turret. So they go for this play from a goal deficit. It doesn't work. It's 4v5, and this is a terrible situation because on the top side, Lee Sin is just working down the turret. He's going to grab a Rift Hurl on the back end of this, and KLG just feels so desperate to convert into anything here.
It shouldn't be a desperate situation for them because it is a 4v5. They've got 3 tanks. They've got the ability to dive these structures, but somehow and in some way the Cho'Gath holds on, flashes out at the last second.
Yeah, I thought he was dead when he flashed out. I couldn't believe he was still alive after all that. He took a lot of damage.
Rakan shielding, baby. Brings him home, brings him home. But I think the big thing here for me here is ultimately I feel like they could have done this play much earlier in the game on the side of Chaos Online Gamers. Why did it take so long for them to try to force something like this?
I think a big problem was there was a lack of mid pressure. The Karma was losing the matchup pretty heavily. He was down 30 CS, pushed into her turret, and there was this funny sequence where she would run forward, throw the tether on the Corki, Corki valks away, and then she just goes back to wave clearing. Felt like it wasn't 100% certain on how they wanted
the Kog'Maw, and they already had the Alistar there, so it was the last 2 picks. And ultimately, I think when you go for the Karma mid lane, yeah, you can still go an Ardent Sensor. Athene's is nice to have the heals, but you need to have a second damage weapon. So I think just changing that up, being more damage-oriented as your Karma, things may have shifted or given more opportunities for the tanks to dive.
And it feels very high risk to me, at least, to book for just that single damage threat in these contexts. We have seen a lot of games be decided in the early laning phase, and the last time they played this matchup, they were at a deficit. So picking something like Karma that I feel like when it's used well is lane dominant and then transitions to a supportive role.
Yet I will say that Chaos Latin gamers do this to a fault because this is how they got here from their best of 5 finals. They play 1 threat compositions. They were just able to win with those locally, and it feels like on the international stage maybe they can just reassess that strategy.
Is the case. Well, ultimately, with our next play, we can see that with 1 damage threat, when he does get pressured out of the fight, very hard to execute.
And this is just a situation where it's a nice setup on the side of KLG, being able to blow a pallet right away, but then they end up chasing the Corki a little bit too far out of the fight, which allows the fact that right now, Young Generation has double Infernal Dragon, double Marksman to start winning this fight.
Yeah, Fix just spends 1 too many seconds perhaps chasing the Corki for that final kill. Big Koro is also the member that we have to discuss on the side of YG. The amount of work that he did through all of that fight goes unnoticed until he just flashes forwards and takes apart that Kog'Maw.
You'll see both 80 carries, at least in the damage chart, showing up, contributing to the team, and no surprise that the 1 threat composition, all the damage is on the Kog'Maw, sadly not enough to bring home those fight wins.
Unfortunately not. A little bit of, like Rusty was saying, a little bit too little too late in that Dragon fight. Potentially could have won it if it was cleaned up a little bit, but on the same time, Young Generation didn't play great either. They grabbed the Baron off the back of that. It's an easy steamroll from there. Still want to see him clean it up a little bit, though, because they started playing the game of I'm in the side lane, you're in the side lane, they kill one of us. we push on the other side. You don't necessarily need to dive when you're trying to speed things up like that.
Yep, definitely. True could be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe play a little more back. They have to come to you anyway to get those objectives, but I think playing aggressively, that is something that I generally like to see, just maybe not so much in this context. But now moving forward, both these teams are tied 1-2 apiece. They've gone even in the head-to-head matchup, so there's a lot of potential for tiebreakers here. What do you think the adaptation looks like for the Chaos Side game that's coming to the next game?
I mean, for Chaos Side gamers, I feel like it's just reassessing their draft phase. We know that as individual players, they are good enough to get victories against this team that we just watched them lose to, so just reassess that draft.
I think that's the big thing. The single threat is very difficult to pull off. I think it's fine to do if you are well versed in that play style of forcing plays around your damage dealer. So while this comp, I think on paper is fine for KLG, and the fact that they've fallen behind 2 games in a row versus Young Generation makes me feel like it's very risky to go for because you're not guaranteed to get Kog'Maw ahead.
We're gonna have to find out how they adjust. Young Generation picked up their first win of the tournament. Let's see if Rampage over in Group D can do the same. The LJL Japan representatives face 1907 Fenerbahce after the break.
Okay. Oh, he finds the and Venus kick back into Pallet.
Galio threatening to dive.
Oh dear, Nocti, he's gonna give it, or is he still staying alive through the roof? Gets the eat on Monteraya. This time no help is coming, so get the pit. Looks like Nocti's gonna try to buy a little bit of time with his health bar. Fix to flash away, Squiggle, and Fix turn things out. Can they get the damage on Monteraya? Trying to go for the dive under tower, but it's a shutdown. Nocti just gets a numb on, and Tyr will have to back away. Rupture flag track, they will be able to shut him down. YG can take this fight as the teleport's about to finish. Nocti comes in. It's a shutdown for Fix. Fix is still looking massive right now, but is it going to be enough? No, against Monteraya, and one by one the protectors fall, and so does the Kog'Maw. A double kill for No, and there's nothing but the base. 30 minutes exact on the clock. Young Generation staying alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Noun, the mid laner from Young Generation, after their victory just then. Tell me, what was the difference between this game and the game you lost yesterday?
Chúc mừng chiến thắng ha. Thì câu hỏi đầu tiên của em đó là cái trận chiến này á, nó khác gì với trận đầu tiên, trận thua của em ở trước KLG?
Trận đấu khác biệt giữa trận đấu hôm nay hôm qua do đầu tiên thế giới tụi em có phần là hơi khớp và đã có một số lỗi giao tiếp là em bích, còn hôm nay thì tụi em đã ổn định lại và thi đấu đạt không nhất.
Yeah, the biggest difference was that yesterday it was our first time ever on a big stage. We had a little stage fright and problems with communication and mistake in big and bands. This time we had a lot better composure.
And it showed you guys tore apart KLG. And speaking of that, this is your first time on a big stage, first time Young Generation into Worlds. And already, nobody quite knew who you were coming into this tournament, but after the first two games, even though you lost, you're one of the most hyped up mid laners coming to the playing stage. How does that make you feel?
Thì mặc dù là hai trận qua em thua, nhưng mà sau hai trận đó thì em được đánh giá là một trong những mid laner hàng đầu của cái play này, thì em nghĩ sao?
Lần đầu tiên được xuất hiện tại chung kết thế giới cũng rất là vinh dự. Thì em cũng làm tốt những gì mình làm được. Thì được đánh giá người mid tốt thì em cũng thấy rất là vui.
Yeah, so it was simply an honor for me to be here already. So if you get to be one of the best mid laners, I'm very happy.
Well, that's finally, just want to get you guys' thoughts, because after that victory against KLG, it's now in your hands to make it out of the group stage. At worst, you can force a tie if you're able to take down your opponents later on. Are you guys confident heading into this next show? How confident are you guys going into this next show?
Thì bây giờ sau khi mình thắng trận này xong, mình đã có quyền tự quyết. Nếu như mình vào được, đúng không? Nếu như mình thua mình có thể đánh tiebreak được. Thì em tự tin trong cái trận tiến tiếp theo hay không?
Nếu như sẽ có trận tiebreak xảy ra thì em tự tin là tụi em có thể đánh bại KLG một lần nữa.
Yeah, if the tiebreak is going to happen, we believe we're going to beat them.
Well, that's great to hear. Best of luck later on. We're going to send it back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Fish. Interesting to hear. Stage fright, the factor, the reason why we saw such a stark contrast.
Yeah, I mean, it was visually kind of apparent, but for some people who might not have seen him play before, it might have been like, oh, this is just a bad Syndra player, but then you see the stark difference, like you said, between game 2 and 3 game 4.
Good overall. Well, next, Rampage. And yesterday, the TCL champions, they showed dominance within their group, and they're aiming to secure the #1 seed for the elimination stage.
Yeah, I was high on Fenerbahce before they started playing, but I was surprised with how good they actually were. I didn't think they would get an upset on the #1 seed. I just had them at solidly second. So to see this, I guess, really strong performance from them, definitely not dominant, was a pleasure, it was a surprise, and I hope to see that improvement between days.
And I think the biggest standout was the bottom lane. This is not a bottom lane that's known for being incredibly dominant.
Right, I think if you look at the mid lane, you say Frozen's going to carry. Seems like he has a little bit of extra baggage. The fact that he has to help do some of these communication things with Crash stepping in, so the jungler also on a separate page. And it's the bot lane who's overperforming a little bit in these team fights that's really allowing them to win this late game. If they can just shore up the early game, then it becomes even easier.
And the early game's always going to be the problem. Even in their local scene, the casters there have said the early game's their biggest problem. They actually said they expect Fenerbahce to 4-0 the group stage if their bottom lane doesn't lose lane. Well, we saw a 3v5 Penta even without the Korean, so perhaps just getting in lane,
It's looking good right now. We have to remember, right now, they need to secure that first seed. That's avoiding Cloud9. That's avoiding WE. definitely going to be important to do.
I think, yeah, anyone who saw, you know, the first 2 days of competition realized how strong these number 1 seeds are going to be. Avoiding that's critical if you want to make it to the actual group stage of Worlds.
Yeah, avoid that and continue the momentum that Crash has seemed to have for himself through his first 2 games as well, because it isn't just that bottom lane. Frozen, maybe not the same performances that we expect from the player, but when he's spending all of his time working with a brand new player and former teammate of his, then it changes the dynamic of the team.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing for me is that Fenerbahce of any team here maybe has the most room to improve because they are working with the substitute jungler with extra time, they get extra scrims in and find out a system that's going to keep working better and better as they advance through the tournament.
All right, we're going to have to see what they can bring to the table against Rampage. The final match for Rampage starts now.
All right, thank you very much, Dracos. Now, Fenerbahce starting off on the blue side this game. They elect to ban away the Galio, followed up by the Rakan, and on Rampage's side, Kalista Talia off the board.
And one of the first times that we've really seen Galio banned away on blue side. So curious if that means that Feldrin wants to put priority on Cho'Gath, and they don't want to give a champion, you know, a free tank champion into the Cho'Gath that then has more mobility into cross-map plays.
We'll see if that is indeed the case. Now, Rampage is back over to them. And they elect to ban the Cho'Gath themselves, so there won't be either of those champions this time around. Seems like both these teams learned some lessons.
Yeah, I could see what you wanted there, and they say no. Feldrin, you're not going to get the best champions today.
Instead, the J4 comes through. Now, we've seen that mostly in the jungle role. We'll see if that continues the way it is. Now, Rampage, they decided to lock in a quick Kog'Maw here on their side.
But ultimately speaking, or switching gears back to this Jarvan, you know, Jarvan does lose some of his power because he's not being paired in tandem with Galio, and that's really been, you know, everyone's talking about like the Rakan and the Xayah, but there's been a lot of Jarvan and Galio running around the Rift today.
Yeah, it's a serious bromance as well. Now, for Rampage, here's another solid pairing because they've got the makings of a Juggernaut composition.
Yep, you've already got so much added power and that means that there is more pressure on a hyper-scaling ADC to match that. Tristana certainly fits into that wheelhouse, and I expect that Todd will take his tried and true.
Yep, just let the timer tick down before he does it, buys the team a little bit more time to think about what they want to do next, and that would be an interesting one, but I think we're going to have to wait a little while. Frozen's definitely contemplating quite a few picks.
I'm excited about all of these picks, though, that have been flashed forward. I would love to see another Cassiopeia take the stage. We have seen a couple of different build iterations coming out and playing so far. Yes, her twin Fangs got hit a little bit, and that does start to stack up. And as I say that, he's like, nope, right turn. We need that Ardent Sensor.
All right, so this time we got the Karma all locked in, but of course that can still be down in the bottom. We saw it in mid lane last game, but that was a very different type of game that we're probably going to see here.
And again, theoretically, it could still be a top Karma. I expect that it's probably going to flex between Frozen and Japone. But again, it's providing that Ardent Sensor for Tristana, which could theoretically fill up more of an all-engaged champion. You know, Alistar slipped through the bans here. And as I say that, they're like, nope, get that guy out of here.
Yep, and of course with the Shen locked in for Rampage, we've got a lot of protection on that side as well. Alistar banned off, as you said, is back over to Fenerbahce. We'll see what they decide to remove. Still needing mid lanes for Rampage.
But my concern is that Rampage could fall into the exact same hole that we saw KLG fall into just last game, this idea of only having one viable damage threat. So I would like to see them pick up, you know, a strong mid laner to complement this composition, because while Kog'Maw can certainly go off, Rampage have been A, having difficulty getting there, and then B, if the Kog'Maw dies, they've got nothing left in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, they could put like Ramanant something like a Corki, maybe a little bit more mixed damage, allows them to kind of survive about just about any laning phase. But you talked about the Cassiopeia, maybe that's the time to bring it out. We've seen a lot of rising up, pardon the pun, and maybe that's the choice.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Ryze. I agree with Mark C, what he said yesterday, that I'm not quite sold yet if Ryze is going to take the place of Cassiopeia, but I just love the playmaking potential that champion offers teams.
Yeah, it allows them to really do a whole lot of things. It's one way to also move the glass cannon that is Kog'Maw. Maybe you want to get behind everybody and bring the Lulu along for the ride. There's definitely going to be a lot of mobility if they elect to do it, but that's a lot of theory crafting. Meanwhile, the bans are still going hot and heavy. Orianna, Lucian banned away from the mid lane.
But there is a lot of respect being given over to mid lane right now. You're taking away his Lucian, taking away the Orianna. He's now hovering the Syndra. I do like this. Like I said, I want more damage coming out of that mid lane, so not everything is on Yatori's shoulders.
Yeah, give Ramane a chance to shine, and remember for Rampage, this may be the last chance for them to really get a win on the board. They can't really progress any further at Worlds, but this game definitely for pride right now, and they're going to be going all out, taking it very seriously as always.
And you know, that's the big thing. The LJL, they're one of the smallest regions in the world. They play very few games domestically, so it's a big deal for Rampage. You know, 3-time consecutive title holder of the Japanese domestic league, to get to Worlds and to just get that score. You know, just carve one in the win column.
Yeah, and if they can do it against a team like Fenerbahce, who were able to upset Hong Kong Attitude, well, that's going to be a pretty big statement for the LGL squad. Now, Fenerbahce lock in the rest of their composition, the Gragas for the jungle, maybe the top, I suppose, as well as the Cassiopeia.
And it does mean that it will be a Karma support, so I'm glad to see Cass again. We've seen multiple different iterations of the build. We've seen Cassiopeia is going towards the Rod of Ages to try to compensate and building up more AP as opposed to more of the defensive build, since she did lose a lot of power on that Twin Fangs. It does stack up over time, so we'll see and keep track of what direction Frozen goes.
Yeah, final lock-in, of course, on the Rampage side was the Lee Sin for Tussle. So he'll be trying to make something happen, probably in that mid lane early on, but I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a few plays down towards the bottom. A few tools in the kit of Rampage.
But again, Rampage have been progressing and developing their draft over time from day number one. Again, it's building in or bringing more viable options for them over the course of this game. Now they can make plays with the Lee Sin, with the Syndra. Think of how strong that level 6 is, or the ability to walk in and do whatever you want in the jungle, as well as then have the late game insurance policy of the Kog'Maw. So I like the adaptations that Rampage have made. It's clear to me that they understood what went wrong for them yesterday, and they're trying to build and fix that today. And yes, this is only a Pride match for them, but Pride means everything.
It certainly does, and it's going to be a very tough test for this Rampage squad up against the hitherto dominant Fenerbahce, 1907 Fenerbahce that is, and you got to look at Crash, man. This guy's been stepping up pretty epic, so going into his jungle might be a little dangerous.
Yeah, I would definitely try to stay out of Crash's way right now. He's had very impressive steals to keep 1907 Fenerbahce in it, and speaking of keeping them in it, it's pressure on right now to win here so they can stay in time with HKA. You know, they want to take first in their group. They want to upset things and dodge one of those other power regions coming into the best of 5, so they need to start here.
We'll see if they're able to do it. We're loading up onto Summoner's Rift for the game 3 today. Fenerbahce not lost a game just yet. They don't want to start now.
And a lot of eyes for me, yes, it's on Crash and kind of the way that he dynamically changes the style in contrast to someone like Moo, who is a bit more of a control-oriented jungler, you know, a bit more of the back pocket safety net for Frozen to allow him to do what he wants. But a lot of focus for me is actually on Thaldrn. I think he's quietly had an amazing play-in so far. I think he is so pivotal and key to a lot of the success that 1907 Fenerbahce get, and particularly how he sets up team fights. And on a champion like Jarvan, he's empowered to do that so much more. Keep focus on how this guy is moving around once the towers drop, come mid-game, come late game, and the fights that he sculpts are how he sneaks in behind teams.
Yeah, we're talking about where Tussle might make plays in the early game, in the mid or in the bottom. Do you think he maybe wants to try and shut down Thaldrn? They've got a taunt available with Heavy up top.
Exactly, it's the fact that when you have a Lee Sin and you have so much hard CC in both your top as well as your mid lane, that you kind of have the pick of the litter about where you want to attack and where you want to blitz. For me though, it's still a lot of focus on Frozen. He is the primary carry of 1907. I know I just built up Thaldrn, and I really like what Thaldrn brings for the team fights, but in terms of laning dominance and laning strength, Frozen is an absolute monster right now, and on a lower mobility champion like Cassiopeia, if you hit the Scout of the Week, the guy's not running cleanse, you know, he has the heal, so there is a weakness to exploit there.
It's very confident of Frozen too to just run that heal, and starts out popping out the bushes and sending some Twin Fangs of flying. There's a few more already, and even with those nerfs, the Cassiopeia still doing damage early on. Ramane finding that out the hard way.
I also respect the skin. You know, we've seen a lot of the internal Cassiopeia running around, and it's not my favorite thing to look at. So
it's a little strange, to be honest. Kind of a scary, off-putting skin.
It's a little bit
more classic here.
Decepticon for me.
Yeah, there's the way of things. Oh man, Frozen's already starting off with the bully. Ramane might have to hit that heal a little sooner than he'd like to.
He's like, guys, didn't we just nerf Cassiopeia? Why is she still able to do this? The key thing, though, is to watch how Frozen is using his Twin Fangs to make sure that he's picking up the CS, so he's getting the mana return. The thing about low-level Cassiopeia, you know, level 1, level 2, is if she does try to go for these early all-ins, if she's not paying attention and doesn't get the mana return, she can actually just run out of mana and not have enough to burn you down.
Right.
So it's about trading the damage, but also making sure that you are taking care of your wave properly.
And maybe not pushing up nearly as far as he could be, because that makes it easier for Tussle to try and push him back, and he's a little low on the health bar. We saw some cheeky trades down in the bottom side. In fact, Padden's actually moving a little far forward just to get a ward inside the jungle.
Yeah, really
Rampage.
Respecting the fact that Tussle did start topside. They know this because they saw Kog'Maw and Lulu come into the lane. So just giving respect that Lee Sin's probably hanging around. In fact, he's going to get underneath them anyway through the try.
Oh boy. Level 3 on the Lee Sin, not going to go for the Krug camp. Instead, it's the long wraparound.
Oh, he's thinking about it. He's like,
oh,
they're so far forward, but...
Takes the blast cone, waiting out.
The problem is where the wave came in. I bet if that wave hadn't set in, he would have just run in. But now that it's set, now he feels like he has a good angle to look for this Q.
Yeah, trying to bait with Tori Miyashi. Instead, they turn their attention over to Yapone, knowing that he can't get the jump away the same way Padden can, and that's just down to half the health bar. It's all they could do for now.
Yeah, Tussle was looking for the fadeaway Q, held onto it, made sure that he tapped Japone last with it, but unfortunately, you know, maybe one or two more auto attacks and he would have felt confident pulling the trigger, trying to get the flash there. But good response from 1907 Fenerbahce's bot lane to respect, pull back, not lose any summoners.
Yeah, Tussle might have the chance to do that again, though. Of course, he's got some vision down inside the jungle. One of them just expiring, but the other already standing strong. Now, Frozen and Ramane still doing it, but it's a little bit more even than it looked earlier.
Yeah, Frozen did kind of duck out, lost control of the creep wave, but that's fine. He's just going to sit back, pick up this big wave. I want to talk about Crash right now, though. He saw that Tussle was on the bottom side. That gives him the go-ahead to recognize that Lee Sin's not going to be on this side of the map and steal away a free Krug camp. And because Tussle didn't also take the camps, he went for the gank instead. This will give him a bit of an edge, and you can see that in the CS already.
Yeah, setting Crash ahead on the game, and we talked about making early plays. Of course, Crash has kind of been his calling card. Pretty much plays all game long since he's been subbed in on this team. See what he's able to get done. Looking at the top side, Evie might want to watch his back.
Yeah, there were a couple of pings I was curious if maybe Evie... Oh, hold on.
Holy moly, we've got a fight on our hands. It was heal for heal. Ramane, Frozen both low on the mana pools, man. These guys just want to have a slugfest.
But the problem is that Frozen's wave is about to push forward into the Syndra. So Syndra's still feeling comfortable being this far forward. He's also pulling Tussle here.
Yeah, speaking of comfortable, he knows that there's no counter vision available. Of course, Crash here on the chicken camp means that Frozen is not going to have to worry too much about being dove because there's relief coming in if it would happen. Instead, no more aggression for the time being. Decided to both pull some punches, and Ramane's got free farm in the meantime.
Yeah, but he will have more of a delayed back. I was actually curious. There's a trick that Jensen likes to do where when the wave comes to him, he actually pulls it off into this side brush so he can get a nice freeze and then force the enemy mid laner to not take the back and then open up, you know, kill pressure there. But unfortunately, he just lets the wave push into him and says, that's fine, we're just going to deny, you know, 2 CS.
Yeah. Speaking of the wave right into him, Valdrin got taunted up into the wave of minions that Evie is starting to push up towards him. Of course, he should be able to absorb that without a whole lot of trouble. But this is one of the things that Shen can do in the early game, bully a little bit, just by virtue of having that taunt.
But he will have his level 6, and it's not necessarily the bowling in the 1v1 that I'm concerned about. It's about how Shen or Evie is going to impact the bottom side of the map. Now, Yutori and Dara have been pushed in pretty much the entire time. That makes sense. They're against Tristana and Karma, and what that does is then allows Crash to do plays like this, where he just gets right in your face, starts contesting things for the Wolf Camp. But if Tristana and Karma continue to be overextended, there is an opportunity where maybe Tussle gets down there with the Shin, and they try to, you know, flip the tables on this over-aggressive bot lane.
Yeah, and it's dark in the river for the time being. We saw already before that Padden was able to get a bit of vision out inside the jungle to try and track Tussle, even if he went for the long wraparound. Now, Japone's managed to do it, but Tussle still has a lot of opportunities to go in there.
Yeah, but 1907, like you were talking about, Fenerbahce have just had such great vision control. You know, they're constantly creating space and creating safety for Padden and Japone to be that far forward, to continue to apply pressure to Yutori and Dara underneath their tower.
Yeah. So while things kind of settle just for a little while, it's only the slim gold lead for Rampage. We've only seen the first couple of backs out of both teams, and it does seem like we're settling in for a much longer than one that we've already seen today, Frosker, and I feel like both teams are pretty confident that their late game scaling is pretty strong.
I agree with that. You know, Rampage have said it themselves that they feel more comfortable. They like to play more of kind of a conservative, patient, slow style. They like the 5v5. Their composition certainly helps build that up. Again, it's really about the Kog'Maw. It's about how the Shin and the Lulu are able to work around him and then just playmaking opportunities by Syndra and Lee Sin. And on the other side, 1907 Fenerbahce pretty much have the same thing. Yeah, Frozen's a really strong laner, but Thaldrin just offers so much for this team when they do start skirmishing, when they do start 5v5. And so I agree with you. I think everyone's, you know, buckled in and feeling fine to feel this one out slow, take it steady, and just hope that they scale up better.
One man who may not be quite so content sitting back is going to be Tussle. He's had to fight for some of his own jungle farm this game, but not for lack of trying to gank on the map. Just hasn't found the results just yet. You can see, though, a lot of vision inside of the Rampage jungle. 1907 Fenerbahce have definitely been not slouching on making sure they keep eyes on everything Rampage are doing.
And that's a lot of credit to Crash. In fact, he's now opening up an opportunity to gank this mid lane, and this is where I wanted Rampage to really focus attention as here they go.
Okay, Scout of the Week, that might just save his life. However, the barrel comes out.
Cask.
A little bit too late, dodged by Ramane, and it's first blood on the 1v2!
Oh, here comes Tussle.
Oh man, this just turned right around. 1907 Fenerbahce thought they had the inside track, but Ramane gets the kickback onto Crash, but he might just steal the doom of his mid laner. No, it's a Shen Shield, and what a play for Rampage.
And that's exactly what needed to happen for this Rampage squad. You know, they've been sitting back, they've been playing patient, but 1907 Fenerbahce just super overreach here. It starts out good. The Scout of the Week delays Frozen from immediately falling up on Crash here. He then whiffs the cast, and it's just an ultimate trade, but Cassiopeia is the one that goes down. And then here comes Tussle with the impressive Insac.
Oh, what a play right now with a flashback. I guess he got the cheat on it, but still.
Yeah, he gets the animation. You know, it's one of those things where in the windup of the Dragon Rage, if you flash in the middle of it, you can change direction, and that's what kicks him back into it.
Yeah, but Rampage, that is some much-needed gold in their pockets. One for the jungler, one for the mid lane. I got to give some serious props to Ramane, though. That was a bad situation, and he made out like a bandit.
Now, the opportunity here is that 1907 Fenerbahce could just look for the same play on mid lane. Syndra doesn't have flash. Frozen still retain both of his summoners. The thing is that they're just waiting on the cast to come back up. So there's still an opportunity to turn this mid lane back in their favor.
Since for the time being, they're a little bit more preoccupied with the swap up top, and that means that no one's there to defend the bottom side. So Tormayashi is getting 3 hits on the tower alongside Dara. Dalton is actually nowhere near this right now. He's still sitting on Fountain.
It makes sense against the likes of Shen, because when that ultimate becomes available, you just want to try to deny it. Unfortunately, though, we've already seen the ultimate go down mid lane, so it is just trading 1 for 1. But advantage to Rampage is they get it first.
Yeah, they were there a lot quicker on the draw, and even with a little help from Tussle, they're able to get it done. So 9 minutes and 50 seconds into the game, shy of the 10. Fenerbahce finding themselves without any kills, without any towers. It's going to change in just a minute, but Rampage aren't done on this bottom side. Tormayashi on level 6 is outliving artillery, and they can keep on pushing.
Yeah, but with Jarvan there, they do need to be careful. Someone is going to have to respond to having the tone up on the top of it. Gragas is also being pulled up there.
Okay, we might good old double tower trades. It's, yeah, Rampage, they're the ones who got one leg up. There's only a few more minions left, but they've got more than enough damage to finish the fire off, and it looks like Heavy's not even going to try to go and defend. He's going for the mid lane. They want to dive it here.
Yeah, and Rampage are making it very clear that the mid lane is what they want.
All right, Scout of the Week. The Unleashed Power's on top of Frozen. They push it back, and it looks like Ramane is going to make it out by the skin of his teeth.
Again, these guys, yes, they come from a tiny region, but they are 3-time winners. Consecutive splits in their region. They are trying to play for pride here. There's nothing on the line except for the name of Japan.
You've got to be sweating a little bit right now. If you're 1907 Fenerbahce, remember every single win counts. They might be 2-0 on the board, but Hong Kong Attitude, they already came out swinging earlier today against the same team, and start dropping games like this, you may not walk away with that first seed.
Ramone already 100% kill participation. Yeah, it's only 3 kills, but 11 minutes and on a Syndra, that is going to matter. Next Dragon will be in the Infernal, will be spawning at 17 minutes, and the power spikes will start to come in for their competition.
Here was that play once again, started off with Frozen hitting the petrifying gaze off. They flash forward, and Evie and Ramane managed to just have enough damage left in the tank to finish him off.
It was Syndra tank from the tower right there. So Frozen did what he could. Unfortunately, he didn't have the appropriate backup to punish Rampage being so aggressive underneath that tower.
Yeah, really nicely played. So gives them 2,500 gold lead with towers traded up top and down bottom. The map is open up in a bit of a luck such a way, but Tormayashi and Dara, they're on the wrecking crew here to make it 3 for 3 on towers.
Yeah, their responsibility is just picking up the global gold, picking up the farm. Syndra is definitely online right now, has the complete item. Before we were talking about, he's still out of time. It looks like that rage wave rush only has the AD, so prioritizing that over the AD to shove down.
Fenerbahce realizing they can't respond to it in time, just decide to trade it here once again. A lot of global gold coming in from both teams for a while. Don't know what else we've been able to take that teams to take on the map, except for Evie's here to actually defend, but it's 1v3.
And while we are playing out on the sidelines, we still need to give a lot of attention. Frozen is just trying to put damage control and keep them from snowballing further on that, but he's playing without a flash, he's playing without a heal, and you saw that Syndra and Lee Sin actually spent a lot of their time looking for another opportunity to punish Frozen and not moving down bottom.
Yeah, Tussle's not always been the first in a lot of these fights, but he's certainly been the one putting them away, so far props to this Rampage team with nothing on the line but pride. They're showing a rare form here. dodge those balls.
I mean, it helps when, kills are thrown into the nuke grinder.
For sure. Yeah, game's definitely gone a little bit more chaotic than we might have expected from the first.
Rampage do need to respond to this. 1907 Fenerbahce has spent, what, 3 waves down here? And poor little Abby is just assisting, guys. Hello?
Team? He's the only one with the teleport, unfortunately, so there's not much anyone else can do.
Yeah, issue is that Tori's on the other side. He's just trying to hoover up a lot of his farm, get to that item breakpoint for Kog'Maw, but without Tussle moving over because he's, hunting around mid lane, Evie just has to watch his tower fall for free. Gold lead shifting, slightly better in favor of 1907. They were farther behind, but that's certainly going to help a lot.
It does seem like Rampage are focusing all their energies up towards the top, trying to get a lot of control out. There's a risk of the fight Tussle ended up winning at the end of it all, and should be able to secure themselves up. That. Oh, hold on a second. The Rift Herald was started. This is like Calder was checking into it.
Really dangerous, though. 1907 Fenerbahce should feel fine to contest this. They have the completed Infinity Edge on the Tristana, so they feel great to start a 5v5 right now.
Oh, everyone's coming in. And not to mention, they've also got the Ardent Sensor. Oh my goodness! Japone gets the steal out on the end. They can't quite pick up the Eye of the Rift Herald, so Rampage decide they want to take the 5v5 fight right to him, but they're getting a little flopped around. Crash starts it off with a party barrel to kill Evie, and Ramane, isolated from the team, has to flash back into him. Gonna stay alive for now.
And now it's inside track for 1907 Fenerbahce on the mid lane, and that's gonna help huge in setting up this Infernal Drake. The big story was the difference of the 80 carries. Again, the completed Infinity Edge, whereas Kog'Maw is in between items. And someone needs to grab that.
I don't think Thaldrin remembered to pick up the Eye. But they got mid lane on the mind.
That's fine, I guess. Huge move from Japone, but they still need to grab it.
Well, we'll see if they end up going back around. Sometimes you leave your house without the keys, sometimes you leave the pit without the Rift Herald.
Oh god, did I leave the stove on?
Let's see this one again. What a steal that was.
Yeah, the fade away from Karma. And again, I love the fact that 1907 Fenerbahce understand that they're strong enough. Thaldrin's over there just scoping the situation out. There's the steal on the Rift Herald. And then, like I said, it's a story of 2 80 carries. Padden just has his power spike right now, and Kog'Maw doesn't. Victoria's just not putting out the same damage. Cinder's trying to do what she can, but when she's against, the entire team, it's not much.
Yeah, I think Rampage just got a little too big for the britches right there, trying to force the fight out, and unfortunately end up giving away a kill, losing out on the Rift Herald. At least they didn't give it away because Fenerbahce forgot to grab it.
Yeah, so the Rift Herald has gone bye-bye. No one has it. Maybe they just wanted to retain the tree.
Maybe.
Let's think about the positives here.
All right.
Now they can use their
That's a
sweepers.
great spin.
They can place the trinkets. Wait, I'll spin it all day. I cast the LPL.
Well, I guess you gotta do sometimes. But okay, we just got a proof of concept that 1907 Fenerbahce can definitely take on 5v5 fights. Padden's got the Infinity Edge, as he said. Even Frozen's starting to dish some damage.
It is different, though, because Kog'Maw now has a completed item in the Rage Blade as well.
Oh, that's true.
Like you said, the Ardent Sensor and Lulu, level 8 will be closer to level 9, so having 5 points in for shield.
Okay, we'll see what Rampage end up doing. Of course, this game just got a little bit less certain for them. It's 1 minute until that Infernal Drake we were talking about earlier is going to spawn up. But the tempo advantage is in 1907 Fenerbahce's favor, especially in this mid lane. Dual lane is going to back, though.
Is it in the mid lane?
Not anymore.
I was going to say, we could check in on the itemization of Cassiopeia, because we did have questions. Some of the Cassiopeias have gone more towards the Rod of Ages to try to compensate for the AP adjustments. This is the more traditional Cassiopeia build, so Frozen staying pretty tried and true there. But he knows his responsibility. I'm supposed to sit next to Pat, hold his hand, and I'm on babysit duty. Can't come get my Tristana if Cassiopeia is standing right next to her.
Yeah, a little bit different on the Rampage side since Ramane was the one that started ramping things up. And of course, he's still in full Syndra threat mode. But as this game goes on, we will start to see that Kog'Maw emerging as the threat. With the Winsu's Rage Blade already picked up, he's, as you said, going to dish a bit more damage as well. But Rampage seemed to have stabilized after losing out on the Rift Herald. They got pushed up at the top, trying to hold on in the mid. And Ramane's down in the bottom, so really nothing's pushing the way of 1907 Fenerbahce, but the Dragon's up.
Yeah, they've lost, Rampage have lost complete control over the Infernal Drake, so still not feeling confident enough. Maybe waiting for 2 items, maybe that Hurricane on Kog'Maw before they really want to step toe and contest. But, giving away a free Infernal never feels good.
No, that's definitely not what you want, especially when you're going to be playing a scaling war. Extra AD and AP for all the champions on the side of 1907 Fenerbahce.
So the thing is that by the time the next Infernal Drake spawns, Kog'Maw will have his big 2 items completed, so they'll definitely feel comfortable. The race is now on for Padden, who, as Tristana, is a bit more dependent on kind of the 3-item power side versus just the 2, especially when looking across at Kog'Maw there. So I feel like this next 6-minute window, Kog'Maw's totally problem. There's a bit more pressure and time sensitivity to Padden and how much farm he's going to pick up in that time.
Well, he's halfway there, and I think that the critical thing is that
Not a prayer.
always apparently. You just completely made me forget what I was going to say. Thaldrin, that's it. It's not karaoke time yet, Frost. We're going to do that a little bit later. Thaldrin is going to be able to get involved in these fights as you predicted at the start of this. Jarvan, the playmaking champion, damage there as well. And I feel like they can kind of sit him on the sideline because the TP is going to be available to get involved in the fight.
And Thaldrin is incredibly important in Rampage's composition because it's about the Kog'Maw. If you can get that backline dive, guess who's responsible for that? They have the Gragas cast, they have the Cataclysm, so they have the tools to isolate, knock Yutori out of position, and just pop him like a balloon. So now all eyes need to be on Thaldrin and Crash about how they get that Kog'Maw out of position.
Crash, you know, after a little bit of an early oozy, he's definitely stabilized. That last fight was pretty effective, kind of shut down what the Rampage team was doing, but he does face check right in to Tussle and Ramane. Not a whole lot of damage dealt. He was able to face tank through most of it. Thaldrin, meanwhile, heading down towards this bottom side where Evi's shoving away at them anyway.
But this is just a scouting mission. 1907 Fenerbahce aren't looking for a fight here. Yeah, if they can pick someone out of position, it's going to feel nice, but it's about the vision game right now. You know, they're setting up for the Baron that's spawning in 39 seconds. Crash does need to be a bit respectful, though. His team's not as close to him as he might think.
Yeah, that's the one thing about trying to set up the Baron vision. If your jungler ends up taking out right before response, that's usually not a good sign. Still, a lot of control inside this jungle. 1907 Fenerbahce not losing its grip at all. Despite a gold advantage for Rampage, they of course just lost track on their own.
And in fact, the only thing that I wish that they would do right now is actually get him back in for Japone so he can pick up more control wards to really secure this game, because that seems to be their next primary objective.
Might get something for it before though. 1907 Fenerbahce looking for the tower on the inside, however.
But it's really hard to break this structure into a Syndra and a Kog'Maw unless they find a good cast. There's so much wave clear on Rampage that I feel like they can hold this for a long time unless 1907 feel confident enough to either look for a dive or something crazy like that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you know, pushing forward like that, I didn't think it was the best use of the time.
Especially how important it is for them to pick up a win here against a team that they were able to dominate pretty effectively earlier on. You cannot afford to drop this right now in all the bottom of the game.
Yeah, but here they go, so they've recognized. Like I said, I just wish that they wouldn't have pushed forward and looked for the chip damage. I wish they would have prioritized getting the back for Japone, to pick up control wards,
I mean, that helps him to get back. See? So he can then back faster to get control ward.
It's like the classic LPL back. You can't kill anyone with a control ward. And kill them in groups.
He upgraded to Sightstone fairly, so he's got a few more tools in his arsenal, but still very close. Gold game right here at 21 minutes in, but Rampage, they've definitely been on the back foot for the last 4 or 5 of them.
They keep pinging back to this Baron now. They already have a control ward on it. Thaldrin's trying to create a pressure point bottom, see how many people he can get to respond to him. And 1907 Fenerbahce are just throwing everything mid. And we might just hold this until Fenerbahce feels confident enough that they've caught Rampage out of position. But speaking of out of position, hello?
Yeah, Frozen, he's got to slither away real fast, but Tussle flashing forward, bringing the Shen to the party. That might have been overkill, but Evie is able to finish the job. Tussle shakes the stone right off. Down goes Cassio.
Unfortunately, just some miscommunication there about, you know, who's holding what pressure point. Thaldrin had made it back. There was no one keeping tabs on Shin. And unfortunately for Frozen, he didn't have the necessary vision underneath him to secure that. And now another flash burn by Japone.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Rampage, they're finding themselves a little more involved right now and being in the area of the Baron. Frozen still down for 15 seconds. That's the primary carry of this team.
And you can see the assist pings immediately going on to the Baron. Rampage, I think that they should actually just pressure this mid lane tower, though.
Looks like that's what they're going to do, but the junglers found each other out. Now Padden has to rocket jump away. Yutori Moyachi was unleashing the Gatling gun of this Kog'Maw. They're just going to keep on top of it with the mini wave coming up to size. Frozen's just spawned up. He's going to have to slither real quick to try and save his tower.
And that's still just a one-item Kog'Maw. It looks like a quick hit sitting in his inventory. Already going to
trying to push things in. Still difficult to do. It does have that static shift. Arrow Infinity Edge, so very way towards that first spike. However, they're able to get done here. Another Infernal Dragon spawning. fight. So if the chase is on, no, doesn't look like it. Everyone's back away. Did not get the memo. Oh, he's gonna burn flash.
Huge ultimate down though. Yes, the Syndra uses the flash, but there's no longer any pass as the Infernal Drake will go by as well as others. But at this point, 1907 Fenerbahce are like, no one is back. Just chunk the health, get the Lee Sin out of here. We're gonna turn and immediately burn the Inferno. But in response, Rampage is just rushing towards the Baron. They know that 1907 Fenerbahce are on this dragon.
No way they can contest it going down oh so quick, but beeline right now, Rampage going for this Baron. Trying to just ping to go to the mid lane. Instead, they want to take a fight.
The indecision here.
Oh boy, set the ward down. I don't know if this is advisable.
Stacking the orb, so the Cinder damage will
They saw that ward come out. Game's up.
Yeah, they call the bluff and they're just going to push mid. So Rampage, a little bit indecision from the Baron, although as I say that, they're moving towards it now.
If they get tower is nearly set to fall already. The Major is too left to work in the rest of 1907 Fenerbahce coming to bear, crash around the back of the pit. This Baron's not nearly low enough. Can they turn for the fight? Aldrin, that is a big shield on top of him, and he flag traps in, goes for the dome, and Ramane's gonna fall to start things off. Frozen cleaning him up off the back, but Yutori Mayashi knocked up to the high ground. But he's not able to get anything else done. It's a 2-for-1 trade.
But that's still inside track for 1907 Fenerbahce. They will get this mid lane tower. It is pretty much on its last leg, last stand. Push this forward, probably clear out the top lane, make their reset, and start setting up for Baron again.
This time, no one here to defend it, so they're able to clear that one out. 6 towers to 3, 2 Infernal Drakes. There'll be another on the way, and they stop the Baron attempt of Rampage. Fenerbahce back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, but it's now the question of what Rampage are going to do with this window where 1907 are making the back. We will take another look at this team fight. Again, we talked about it. Thaldrin, he doesn't get a lot of credit, but it's about how he sets up these team fights. Unfortunately, Baron takes him out. But got the nice Cataclysm.
I mean, he did the job, you know. Sometimes when your team follows you all the way in, it doesn't matter if you die because you take a couple people down with you.
But
Rampage.
this is the window I was talking about. In the 1907 back, it meant that they lost control over the Baron pit. So Rampage see that they're trying to fix the waves, and they immediately pull the trigger on the Baron.
Yeah, they got Baron fever for sure. Now Tussle looking to try and catch out onto Patton. He gets the kick back into Ramani, turns and burns, and they're going to be able to find him. Rampage taking out the carry right there, and even through the heel, they might have the chance to take the Baron this time.
But they still need to respect the fact that Crash is around as well as the Cassiopeia, so they're not 100% confident to go for this.
Yeah, but Thaldrin's not there. However, he does have the teleport. Going to start it up right now, and looks like Rampage are going to turn off, looking for Frozen this time. Do they have the damage? No taunt.
Oh, so close to hitting that taunt there.
That would have been the difference maker, and now a little bit low. They don't feel like they can try and fight this one out. So 4 members of 1907 Fenerbahce are enough to deter this Rampage squad. They have to scatter away from the barrel.
And unfortunately, that was the window that Rampage had to try to exploit 1907 Fenerbahce not being in position. So losing that is pretty massive because now it's just going to go back into a tug of war over the vision, and 1907 will have the waves. You can see that Frozen setting it up in the top lane. The bot wave has already been shoved up. Someone will need to respond and reset that. And it gives them all the time to walk in, clear out all this vision, and try for another match.
Control of the rivers on both sides. It's been a few hectic moments for this team, but they definitely seem to be controlling. Unfortunately, Rampage looks like they may not be able to walk away from it.
It's not over yet, Pyra, because you do have the 2 completed items now on the top one. He's also got his shield for that third one. There are still hope windows. You can see that this is where Rampage is focusing all the time. Slow, logical team, out there superstar ADC, getting him to that point where he can really take advantage of a fight, and he's still in perfect position to do that. You know, great CS, he's kept time with Tristana. He's already been devastating with 2 items, more so against that Hurricane.
It's very true, Frostbridge. Still though, take a climb back, and we saw the decision. We saw them not being able to pull the trigger. Becomes Baron. However, time being, not going to sit in the mid lane, fire away. They still need to be able to knock that one down in the middle.
It's not Baron, it's also letting 3 from his go. Absolutely the last nail in the coffin. The situation that they're struggling with right now is not just Baltimore. Emmy doesn't have his either, but he gets to be Shin, so pretty much has anyone to stand united. And that's kind of the issue that Fenerbahce has run into, and why they can't just immediately rush towards the Baron order setting up. And with Infernal spawning so closely, I feel like they're just going to take this one slow. You know, let's wait for the teleport cooldown to come back up before we try to make the Baron play, unless Rampage just massively misposition themselves. And let's instead focus on this Infernal that's spawning in 1 minute 30 seconds. By the time we take that down, hopefully we'll have the teleport back up, and then we can try to set up this Baron properly.
Yeah, that's the controlled style. All right, so now you see the ward clearing out. 1907 Fenerbahce priming this Baron to see if they can maybe get a catch on the back half of it too, because they see Tussle just inside of his own jungle. And of course, Dara just standing on the outside as well. Dolphin's still clearing in the bottom side. Full control for 1907 Fenerbahce, but Rampage, they're not too far behind, and we have a 3 out of Kog'Maw to bear.
Yeah, the big AoE purchase in the Hurricane, so it's not just about the 3 items, it's about the fact that, you know, no one is safe now on the side, which means that Thaldrun, Crash, your job has got that much harder, that much more important for these 5v5s. Find this Kog'Maw, get him out of position, blow him up.
Let's see if they can wheel the cannon in the right position, though, on the Rampage side. Still pushing waves back, making sure that 1907 Fenerbahce do not have too many chances to start pushing on to those base towers. However, still a strong presence in the mid lane. They've got to be able to try and contest this dragon. Lisa, giving up a third could be fatal.
And it looks really slow right now that there's just a massive hiatus, but this is exactly what 1907 want. They've got Thaldrun out into a side lane, so they don't want to get caught out in a 5v5 because they know that the enemy top laner can be there and theirs is not. So this patience, this is controlled patience.
Yeah, looks like Crash gonna run straight into Ramune and Tussle. Safeguards back to his mid laner. Still throwing his weight around. Crash doesn't take any damage at all.
But there's the Infernal.
Tussle. Here comes Evie. They've got a taunt off. It's onto Thaldrun. Doesn't tanky enough, though, to survive. Evie gets knocked back into the team. The power gets unleashed, but no one's gone down. A couple of key ultimates spent, not to mention the flash out of Thaldrun.
The problem is that there's no movement down there. It's so dangerous for Rampage to step forward into this. They've got a single ward from the Dragon Pit, and it's going to be 3 contested Infernals in favor of 1907 Fenerbahce.
Disaster right now for Rampage. The gold might be even with those dragons. Difference now. Rampage, they're making a beeline for the Baron, but this is full vision, and no one has matched on the Fenerbahce side.
And I've seen this play before, and Rampage have never had the confidence to pull the trigger on it. So I think that they're trying to set up a trap, but unfortunately, because they can't Baron, they don't know how to support it. And so 1907 Fenerbahce, with all of the information, just choose to call their bluff and push up mid.
Take out some towers too, and Rampage still sticking around trying to build the death rush, but Crash is just going to find out that lone control ward. Padden and standing strong. Crash gets caught on the stun, Tussle around the side looking to lead. Padden gets picked off and interrupts the jump. That might just be enough to do it. 5-man, they're going to turn for this one, but they're going to have to fight for it with 3 Infernal Drakes. A 4v5 might not be out of the question for 1907 Fenerbahce.
Still need to respect the fact that Crash is still alive. You see he's trying to debate, are we walking in the front, we going in the back?
Yeah, they're looking for Capone right now. Tussle right on the front line for the chase.
They can just go top lane.
Looking for it. Yeah, Dara. Last chase off. Here's the Kog'Maw. Wheel it in the cannon. Let's see if they can take it down.
I like this call. Don't even play with the Baron right now. Crash is still alive. You've got a huge wave, a huge damage on the Kog'Maw. Take the free shot.
They can do with man advantage. 15 seconds left on the front. That's a massive mini wave. Pretty easy to try and get some gold back into their pockets. So Rampage will clear that away. Still pinging back to the Baron though is 1907.
Yeah, and it's a huge wave that someone needs to respond to. So yes, Jarvan is taking care of it. He does have his teleport. He really needs to get here quickly, although he can't just walk. This is so much respect for Rampage. They are so terrified of Crash.
Yeah, and terrified of Baron throws. I suppose it's healthy, but at the same time, they might have been able to pick up something.
This hasn't been a problem for any other team this entire play.
Well, that's very true. Looks like 1907 Fenerbahce are making a play here. It's only with 3 members. Probably sticking around with these things, getting caught up. Padden's joining the party here. Tussle around the side. Let's see if they can stop this one. A lot of pings flying on all sides. Evie's not starting to stop, and it's going to be Tussle who gets knocked out into the team. Still a lot of damage to the Brothon, and it's going to be a big party barrel. Redemption is not going to land on Adara. Let's see if they can take out Rose to start things off. There's a shutdown for Evie. The Kog'Maw will find a kill on the Thaldrun. Rampage to finish this fight. Has already jumped away though, and will this finally be the time for Rampage to get the not in this fight. Evie's isolated for the team, and everything is going wrong. Back against Ramune, looking for Evie. Turn back onto the Baron, and the arrow doesn't even reset.
Disaster. The indecisive means that 1907 Fenerbahce will get the Baron, but Tussle, the miracle still.
Let's see if he can do it. Sends the Sonic Wave just a smidgen too late. Down he goes. And 1907 Fenerbahce come up with everything that kills the Baron buff on all 5 members. All that's left is for them to push into the base.
This has been a 10-minute Baron dance, and ultimately it's Baron that does so much of the damage. Let's look at, take a look at how this team fight started. Now the big guy to look at on your screen is Hitori, because he goes pretty much untouched this entire time. So Rampage, they peel back to their Kog'Maw. He's confident, he's pressuring forward, pushes them out, and this is where things are amazing. Now Hitori turns towards the Baron. He's like, come on guys, let's get it into position. But the team just doesn't rotate quickly enough. Are we zoning them away? Are we on the Baron? Hit one, force Crash to continue. And then this is the biggest mistake. Standing behind the Baron and just getting shredded by all of these spikes. Hitori's actually going to flash out to the back of the pit, and now all your damage is gone.
Yeah, Ramune Tussle just kind of standing there waiting for the end of days. That was all she wrote. Double kill to Tristana. Insult to injury on top of it. We know the rest.
Yep, and Tussle will try to make the miracle still, doesn't get it. Crash secures the Baron. It might secure the victory here for 1907 Fenerbahce. Triple Infernal, 35 minutes of game with the Baron, and now sieging on bot end.
Yeah, that tower's getting cut through pretty quickly right now. A lot of crits coming out of that Tristana cannon. Down goes the first tower inside the base. Still King's Flying Rampage on a desperate defense. It's their last chance to try and get a victory. Now at a world with their heads held high.
At this point, we just want to get a good play. They had flashes of brilliance, but unable to execute all the way through. Maybe feeling a little bit of their stage leader so far. It feels like they're just indecisive. Taking the Baron or not taking the Baron, or looking for the flank, or steamrolling forward in this fight.
As you've mentioned so many times, LGL small league, small region, emerging, trying to prove that they have a shot to tank with some of these larger regions. With TCL producing some serious contenders. World stage, it looks like 1907 Fenerbahce might be joining those ranks pretty soon as Crash goes in, gets the knockback, and they're going to start the deletions. Guitar Mayashi's already out of this fight, and so he goes. So goes the damage. The dominoes are falling, and they just keep on moving. The double kill for the Casio. They don't even need that inhibitor. Already got one down in the bottom. There goes the ace. 35 minutes on the clock, and it's all over but the crying as 1907 Fenerbahce turn it back around, getting themselves one more win and going undefeated in their group.
Fenerbahce executing on what Rampage was just a bit gun-shy in doing, which was pulling the trigger on the Baron. As soon as they saw they had an advantage, they said, this purple worm is ours, secured it, and then immediately ended the game.
Just making themselves look even better, finding a third win on the board, and falls back in Hong Kong attitude scored, I suppose.
And that's the thing, it was a must-win for 1907 Fenerbahce to keep toe with HKA. They want to come out first in the group. They had to win here, and now this group just got even spicier.
Yeah, there's going to be a few more very decisive games coming through it. Shaking hands with the Rampage members. Unfortunately for these guys, not a whole lot left for them to do. 1907 Fenerbahce, man, making an emergency sub, a lot of question marks raised. It doesn't look like there's been any trouble whatsoever. Crash has been coming up huge.
Yeah, and we've also seen the consistent performing Thaldrin as well as Frozen, so it makes Crash's job that much easier when he's already got 2 solid backbones.
Right, now it's a very good definitely some display, especially on Frozen's side, trying to get Ramune coming up with a good play to turn things around and then same like counted.
Yeah, it's about making those clutch decisions. I can control 100%, pretty much a monster objective control. It wasn't the cleanest mission, but statistically they felt in control for the entire game.
So, get their thoughts on that game. Let's send it over to our analyst.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Of course, interesting way that the game unfolded. A little bit of a competition shortly here. What I will say right off the bat is this is probably the best early game we have seen from Rampage so far. Unfortunately, from that point on, it did feel like everything started.
I mean, it was a bit of a, bold pick of Frozen to take the Cassiopeia into Syndra. It's a little bit of a skilly matchup. A lot of people think it does give Syndra just a little little bit, given that you have that long reach stun set up, and it did feel like it went back pretty quickly just because of that, and Mooney was able to step up and have probably his best game performance.
You have that slight edge when you get the Abyssal Mask for yourself, but most of it's pretty difficult mid lane to start the game out with. But yeah, Rampage, when you look at the early game, it wasn't that bad. Most of it came from Fenerbahce mistakes, but ultimately their early game was. And some of that did come from fantastic plays. Ron Nace, if you take a look at this replay by Ace or Predator, you can see just how dominant he was, and maybe some questionable choices.
I like the decision here to try and gank the Syndra. Crash tries to way out the flash, just misses the cast, and then Frozen makes the mistake of continuing to chase, tries to get that ultimate off, and it just puts him in range to go down. Now Crash is in a bad spot. He's going to get chased down by Frozen here as well. Nice kick flash back. Nearly gets taken from the script.
You can see that exact moment where they knew they had made a mistake. Unfortunately for the side of 1907, Fenerbahce Frozen overstepping. But what we can say is the Shen ultimate timing was fantastic. This is that second kill where once again Frozen, I feel like the first one might have been a mistake. The second one, obvious signs of trying to outplay people that aren't trying to outplay him. So he outplays himself.
Yeah, very difficult. And the thing I like that is it's like, oh, they messed up, I got a kill, hooray for me. But they actually did a good job with Ramune, continuing to push the lead, got us against the advantage. They broke that turret in the mid lane with some resources. So you can see them playing around with their advantages.
And from there, it did feel like a very even game. But at a very specific point in time, everything happened. 33 minutes, they're going to take a look at the fight that happened around here. And Fenerbahce, in the end, coming out on top, but very turbulent.
Right, they picked two. It's a 4v3. You get the Baron here, but it takes them forever to start this thing off. Something got chunked out really aggressively by Madden just before this, and they all group up and back to hit. Where Baron's deep down is the flash, it also hits multiple members, so they chunked out very low. Utori has to flash the wall. Split calls. Evie tries to go onto Madden. People are dying in the pit. It's a disaster.
Died to the Baron. They're lucky the Lee Sin got out alive and very disconnected from the side of Rampage. And that wasn't even the Rift Herald play. That was the Baron.
Yeah, the Rift Herald play, not so hot either. The thing that really disappointed me was Rampage had a lead. They made a mistake with the Rift Herald play. Fenerbahce didn't pick it up, but then they just felt like they never crossed mid-river almost the whole rest of the game until they finally got another pick-off onto Madden.
And the big thing that I noticed too is that when you saw Gambit kind of in a similar scenario, right? They took a very different approach. They went for some controversial things. I think you could say they're having a little fun with it. And they tried things. And in a game that, in the end, you're just trying to save face. You're trying to show the world that you're a team.
You just want to be remembered. And Gambit went out there and they had fun. They remembered. You're going to remember that Baron play from Rampage. Not necessarily what you want to be remembered for, unfortunately.
But Fenerbahce now coming in 3-0, have secured themselves a spot in the elimination stage. Good for them. But also, I feel like we've highlighted some new weaknesses here. You look at mid lane and say that is an outstanding weakness. When you look at their opponent, there's a world where mid lane can be a target. It's the individual mistakes that we're seeing from Frozen. Perhaps the fact that he's having to communicate with Crash so heavy-handed could ultimately be a downfall. But now we're seeing early laning phase and mechanical mistakes.
Games early on in the first match versus AKA, and it seems now here versus Stage. He has to be very careful going forward in this rematch because he might be getting targeted very aggressively.
Do you think that this was just that confidence pick similar to the Caps that we saw? The LeBlanc we saw from Caps yesterday, do we think that on a more professional pitch he can be safer, or does he just need to kind of take a step back? I would say it's mentality more than
Cassia here is a confidence. There's still a million other mid lane champions. Just
all right, well now let's send it over to Fish, who's standing by for an interview with 1907 Fenerbahce.
Hey guys, I'm doing Crash Jungle for 1907 Fenerbahce, and you guys just picked up your third win playing this group stage. How do you feel right now knowing that it's in your hands to make it into the next stage of groups?
네, 방금 전에 경기를 마치면서 이제 그룹 스테이지에서 플레이오프 진출이 됐습니다. 그럼 이제 2라운드 진출이 확정이 됐는데요. 지금 기분이 어떠신가요?
아직 남경기가 남아있잖아요. 남경기가 우리 목표가 1위가 됐어요. 일단 1위를 하는 게 목표니까 아직
Well, we still have a final match with Hong Kong Attitude, and we have actually changed our goal to becoming the first seed in this group. So, it's still too early for us to be happy.
Well, that's great to hear. Good luck in your match later on against Hong Kong Attitude. I kind of want to talk about how you came into the team, because you were a last-minute emergency substitute. You only had a few days to work with the team before coming to the World Championship. What has that been like, coming into the World Championship with so little time to prepare?
네, 질문을 드려드리겠습니다. 그리고 지금 저희
저를 맞춰주는 것보다 제가 팀원들을 맞추는 게 쉬울 것 같아가지고 제가 팀원들을 맞춰주는 거.
Well, I figured that it will be easier for me to follow their style than asking them to follow my style. So that's what I'm doing now.
It's good to hear because Stalgers have nothing to say about how they were trying to adapt to your style as well. So to hear that you're doing the same. Finally, just ask, what is communication like? I think you're a mixture of both Turkish and those Korean players. How do you guys communicate going into game? How do you guys practice together, so to speak?
네, 저도 안 그래도 그 부분이 궁금했는데요. 답변 감사합니다. 그렇다면 이번에 팀 내 의사결정에 관한 질문인데요. 한국 선수와 터키 선수 둘이 섞여 있습니다. 서로 연습은 어떻게 하고 있고 연습은 어떻게 하고 있나요?
기본적인 영어밖에 없는 것 같아요. 기본적인 탑이랑 터키 친구가 영어를 굉장히 잘하니까 탑이랑 헤이리 형이 같이 제가 말하는 걸 못 알아듣는 거를 통역해주는 식으로 하고 있어요.
Actually, I speak very little English, but our Valkyrie speaks very good English as well as Frozen. So they're helping me to talk to other players. They're helping me translate my Korean into English.
Well, that's great to hear. Best of luck in your final match against Hong Kong Attitude. We're going to go to a very quick break. We'll be back with more World 2017 team action up next.
And it's first blood on the 1v2.
Rampage are making it very clear that the mid lane is what they want.
We unleash powers on top of Frozen. They push him back. Oh my goodness. Japong gets the steal out. On the end, they can't quite pick up the Eye of the Rift Herald, so Rampage decide they want to take the 5v5 fight right through, but they're getting a little bopped around. The puzzle around the side looking for the lead. Chad gets pulled off and interrupts the jump. That might just be enough to do it, and everything is going wrong. Chad gets Ramane looking for Heavy. They turn back onto the Baron, and the aggro doesn't even reset. Katori Leossi's already out of this fight, and so he goes. So goes the damage. The dominoes are falling, and they just keep on moving. The double kill for the Casio. It's all over, but the grind has 1907 Fenerbahce turn it back around.
Hello and welcome back to day 4 of the play-in group stage. And what a day it has been thus far. Games aplenty, League of Legends to tip your hat at. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain and all aboard the banter bus with my bae, Aiden, Zymi and Moon, because we're about to bring the business on the back end of our best of one.
Yeah, the last 3 scheduled games for the group stage, or the play-in stage right here, and then we move on to elimination later in tiebreakers later on today.
If tiebreakers occur, you never know. Teams taking the stage for this game, though, are the Chaos Latin Gamers versus Fnatic. But Fnatic, they'll need to maintain the dominance we saw from them versus KLG yesterday if they want to secure that #1 spot.
Yeah, of course, Fnatic would lock in the #1 spot in their group if they win this match, because they couldn't be caught by the other 2 teams in it, and they need to maintain their focus against all opponents. Yesterday, we saw Young Generation take them to a very long 50-plus minute game that was incredibly taxing. It went the distance, they had a little bit of everything in it. Fnatic did have to struggle in that game constantly because of the fact they lost the mid lane with Caps.
Caps really struggled against Null in that game. KLG, on the other hand, are coming off a disappointing loss against Young Generation, and now, to avoid the tiebreaker, they must pull off quite a large upset.
Yeah, of course, we've been kind of looking at that top laner, Mantaraya, seeing what he can bring to the table, and so far this tournament, it hasn't been that much. We want to see more of that namesake. We want to see him live up to those extra R's that we put in there and see if he can bring that power. Of course, the bottom lane has also been a little bit in that underperforming section with Fix. He got fed, had a lot of kills on the clock, but people were dropping left and right around him. So we have to find, outside gamers, they have to find a way to kind of play a little bit more around where their strong parts are.
And they have been a team that's built around Fix in the past. It's, played the Karma, the Galio, Lulu support, being able to sort of pump up that hyper carry. If you look on the other side of the Rift, you're now playing into Reckless Captains, a lane that yesterday was one of the stalwart performers for Fnatic.
And one of the things that always is very shocking about Reckless is not just the fact that he doesn't give up kills and he gets a high, very high KDA, is that CS per minute, where he was rocking about a 12 CS per minute, which is astoundingly high. Normal is like, oh, you're around that 8.5 to 9 range with everybody. 10 is what he averages, a little bit above that, 10.6. But he has had, I believe, 80% or more of his games in the last season were a 10 CS per minute or higher, whereas most people, even the top performers, have about 50% in that area. So Reckless gets the farm pretty much no matter what the circumstances are. You can always bank on him to deliver in these games, and that's why he's so crucial for Fnatic.
But you have to look at the rest of Fnatic as well and say, okay, we know our bot lane is going to be solid. Our jungler and our mid lane are going to be able to play up to the level they need to be. It's the first international tournament in, the first Worlds for Caps and for Broxer.
Yeah, and I said this about Cloud9 with contracts when he was a rookie coming in Group A. Well, this is a great warm-up for these guys. They are dominating the group so far with the 2-0 and just need this win to lock in the first seed coming out of it. But it also gets Broxer and Caps prepared for what will be happening later on in the tournament, where they'll end up in a group that's much harder than the one they're currently in. So having this warm-up, having them a little bit exploited early, allows you to kind of have your eyes on those weaknesses when it isn't completely catastrophic that they happened.
But you have to compare it to other Tier 1 teams like Cloud9 and like Team WE, who came through their groups a lot more confidently than Fnatic have.
Yeah, so far Fnatic, I mean, it's funny to say because WE was also taken the distance by Lion, so I'm feeling like Fnatic with those 2 games is kind of reminiscent of the way that WE played, but you also have to look at the teams around them. Is that Young Generation who just picked up a win against Chaos Latin Gamers getting their act together near the end? Because remember, they come from Vietnam and they also were right below the Gigabyte Marines and had a little bit of that unexpected quality to them. Could be the nerves since it was their first international event, but you're looking at Chaos Latin Gamers who are here to prove themselves, right? They had that first win over Young Generation yesterday, and up against Fnatic, if Fnatic can drop the ball here, there is big punishes that could potentially happen. So, like I said, you do want to have those games that you don't drop, but you do want to have that kind of #1 seed feeling that Cloud9 had with their average game time being around that 26-minute mark.
And that's just incredibly impressive. You have to give Cloud9 credit there. On the other side, you've got Chaos Latin Gamers who, if they lose this, are looking at a probable tiebreaker up against Young Generation later on. Even if they do lose, you want to have a good performance against Fnatic. You want to be able to get a little bit of your mechanical prowess in there. You want to be able to show up a bit to give yourself confidence coming into later in the day.
Also, you don't want to leave it up to chance. If you can beat Fnatic, then that puts the pressure on the Young Generation who play Fnatic later on in the day to have them upset Fnatic and try to get back in that tiebreaker scenario.
We are on to pick some bans. It's Chaos Latin Gamers on the blue side, Fnatic on the red, and Syndra and Rakan removed by KLG. Sejuani and Jarvan by Fnatic.
I actually really like the Rakan ban being picked up by most teams on blue side, because when you pick the Xayah first pick, the enemy team will take the Rakan in their first rotation, and then they'll have something like Tristana and Rakan. Whereas if you were forced to pick the Rakan first early, they'll be able to take the Xayah away and have that strong AD carry for themselves. So now you just leave flexibility up instead of that all-around great kind of AD carry or support that can actually abuse Ardent Sensor.
Fix is going to get the Xayah locked in first here for Chaos. And what we tend to see is then, Tristana perhaps left until the second rotation of this first set of picks and bans. The Rek'Sai locked in early for Boxer as well. More of an aggressive jungler, something that we saw a little bit of him doing yesterday. Jez is going for the Janna. It does give us that Ardent Sensor early on, Zyrene. And Jez is very happy about the fact that he's standing lane and press E.
Yeah, he looked pretty pumped up there that he got that Janna and ready to go, but this will allow them to pick the Tristana later, leave it for even further down, because I feel like for Reckless, he just plays so many things at a high level. We saw him play the Varus when he got banned out, and it didn't matter. So this guy is just comfortable on so many different champions, and the diversity that he's brought to the table is something that he's always had in his back pocket, but he's always had favorites in terms of champions, or the trifecta that he would like to pull out.
I have to see if they do decide to get the Tristana here. It's a Lulu and a Gragas for Chaos game, and this is the trend we tended to see across playing to get your AD carry, jungler, and support before that second ban phase. Then you look towards your mid laner and your top laner to round there.
Yeah, sometimes people, I believe, will pick their mid laner early on and then allow the counter pick on the red side right before the bans. It's something we started seeing in North America very frequently. Was red side would pick their AD carry or their support early on, and then they would go ahead and just leave some other things up and pick their mid laner as that third pick.
Fnatic taking a bit of time over this next ban. They are going to remove Talia from the pool, something Plugo plays incredibly well alongside the Orianna, of course. And now Chaos Latin Gamers respecting Cap, saying we don't want to have to deal with your Aurelion Soul.
Yeah, it's actually been banned against him previously as well, making sure that he's not able to pick up that champion and, throw the kind of the spanner in the works. It was banned against him by Hong Kong Attitude in that match that went the distance. We'll see what the response is here, because a lot of mid laners being banned out. That pool is getting a little bit thinner, but it's always a very large pool. Cassidon, Corki, Cassiopeia, Orianna, there's just so many.
Ryze as well is something we've already seen
very
this tournament, so there are so many different options for him. Fnatic removing Cho'Gath from Chaos Latin Gamers, something Mantaraya is incredibly good at playing, and a top laner that is just relatively safe in lane but can have such impacts as you get later on into the game.
Nice call on the Ryze there, being banned away. It's just something that a lot of teams don't have the time on just yet, or the time against. It's something that you would have had to kind of predictively jump up. It was jumping up a bit in solo queue, but whether or not it was going to be a high competitive pick has yet to be seen until just a few days ago. There's Orianna, and with Cassiopeia being nerfed, she's even got a harder matchup against the Orianna. LeBlanc jumps to mind as something you can potentially play here. The Syndra banned away, the Ryze and the Talia. Corki would be a neutral matchup, and then you have double AD carry with Ardent Sensor.
And that's the thing, you've got all of these different ideas for compositions that run through your head at this point. I'm sure Chaos Latin Gamers would have come in with a plan. At the moment, it is looking a little bit like a protect the AD carry comp with perhaps something else on top, but instead they go for the Galio, a little bit less damage than I like to see from a comp.
This is a very low damage composition. This is going to rely a lot on picks. We talked about how he got fed on the Kog'Maw, but then he wasn't able to deliver. Now, they're going all in on that. Previously, Chaos Latin Gamers earlier today played a Jarvan and Galio composition. Now, it's the Shen plus the Galio. Little more protection, but it's not a Kog'Maw. It's a Xayah. A little bit more based around that mid-game power spike. Having a lane phase that does have good wave clear in it and could potentially bully. So I'm watching this bottom lane here, which is very strange because Chaos Latin Gamers is still slow going up against Reckless and Jez. This is a risk that you were obviously willing to take as Chaos Latin Gamers, but it's a gamble.
But this is the point of the competition where you have to take gambles. If you want to be creative, if you want to secure perhaps that second spot in the group, you really have to take these risky plays, and you can see Reckless and Jez do have a relatively safe lane into this Xayah and Lulu.
Yeah, right now you can see Reckless, he had the barrier and then it was the heal for Jez, so just trying to have a neutral lane, and that's why I think this is so strange. Normally we saw Caps yesterday drop the ball against the wall, completely destroyed, solo killed twice in that game, had his turrets absolutely say, we're not going to do that. We don't even go through caps. Maybe he learned his lesson. They're actually not trying to punch Fnatic where they're historically weak. They're trying to punch right in the strong spot.
Sometimes you have to go for your opponent's strengths, use their strengths against them, use their weight against them, use their confidence against them in that bottom lane. But do you want to see how these junglers move early on? Especially as an aggressive early jungler. Broxah known to be much more passive. And we saw a little bit more from him yesterday in terms of early game pressure.
That's kind of the Fnatic. What the Rocks are going to look like, especially if they move on to the group stage.
We'll have to see how they look at the moment, because Fnatic have not secured that first seed yet. They have 2 more games today, one against KLG right now and one against Young Generation later on, and they will be looking to continue this trend of Tier 1 Seed 1 teams win. We've only seen one upset for a Tier 1 team. Attitude versus Fenerbahce.
Decided until very end right here. Just 13 Chaos Latin Gamers versus Young Generation rematch. Both 1 win and 3 losses, right? And then after tiebreaker, they're missing tiebreakers. That happened. Talk attitude. Fenerbahce won. That's one that could end up having another game as well.
And more League of Legends. I think we can all agree on that. I've managed to switch my sleep schedule around, so I'm ready to go the whole hog, full distance.
You just hit me with the schedule. I love it. I love it.
Well, you hit me with the Fenerbahce.
Yeah.
Proper pronunciation. It's very well done. Let's focus back on this game, though, Irene. KLG do not have that much damage in their top or in their mid lane. They're looking towards bot. So what does Tyr will do to facilitate that?
So he's going to have to track where Broxah is this early aggressive jungler on the rec side, but not get too close, because this bottom lane from Fnatic, I feel like what you can do as KLG is you can either be very aggressive with this Lulu that has a key and try to push up and be, just a very offensive force here, but I don't feel like you're going to get much of it. Janna lane is something that, as a jungler, you never really want to go towards. Then it's a barrier plus shield in that bottom lane, and it's a relic shield and a coin. So they're just trying to get the margin sensor for Jez. This lane is dedicated to scaling, but that means they may give something up. And that's what I'm trying to do. This is reckless. We talk about his CS per minute. He's already off to the races with his CS. Basically leaving nothing up to chance or in the opponent's hands, just dictating it immediately, even though the lane's supposed to be a bit more passive.
Did start off in the lane, which gives KLG the knowledge that what's up on things and starting off up towards that top side, so Tyr will play around with that little bit of intelligence he has. KLG are able to force Reckless and Jez's back a little bit, push them off this wave. On the rest of the map, we're seeing a slight advantage for Mantarraya in that lane over the sides. I'm only going to do that one.
Really? See him up about 8 CS in the top lane. I almost did it. I thought about it.
When he makes a game-changing play.
I got a feeling.
Yeah, I didn't get to cast KLG yesterday, so I had it stored up, all of those extra R's just sitting in my back pocket. Feed the R's into the game as we go.
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you, Nurse Simon. KLG looking up towards the top side. Tyrwolf is around here, but it's so hard to gank him out quite early on. In fact, all of Fnatic's lanes are very difficult to get a purchase on if you are this Chaos Latin Gamers jungle.
Yeah, if you're just playing safe, you can see all of Fnatic's lanes are actually playing underneath their turret. They're not taking damage, and at the same time, Tyrwolf is not able to really have too many fantastic divers with the Gragas. Is he going to pair up with the Galio or the Shen to make that happen? Not really, and it's very difficult to get dives on these members, like you said. The Maokai, very difficult. Taps has cleanse, so you'd have to be taking a very large risk if you're KLG's jungler of Tyrwolf to actually make something happen.
Probably be okay with the early game going relatively even. It looks like Broxah is actually coming down towards the bot lane, so we might see Fnatic being the first team to enact a gank. Slow and Fix have pushed up here, and Reckless is on the aggressive warpath. Broxah looking for the knockup onto Slow. There it comes, the TP in behind them straight away. It's a bait, mate, says Cyrene, and now Reckless gets ignited. Looking for the blade caller back, a good double taunt. Reckless with a heal, jumps away, and will escape for the time being, but Plugo is not quite done. Fnatic able to get away, but baited in well by the Chaos Latin Gamers.
Yeah, the reason I think that's a bait is they saw Broxa kill the ward on their Pixel Brush using the Scryer's Boom and saw him move down. So Broxa is 100% moving towards bottom. Plugo put himself in a position to get them from behind with the ward, and he was looking for just a little bit more once they hit. He wasn't able to get much.
Did burn his flash. Now Caps now has flash advantage in that mid lane. Broxa is coming down towards bot lane once again and has a flash of his own, but it looks like he's just going to help push out against this KLG bot lane. I wonder how much gold Jez is sitting on. Probably has enough to go back and get a portion of that Ardent Sensor.
Yeah, at this point, especially with the Relic Shield, you would think so. You can see he's up 300 gold. A lot of that is from the fact that he has the coin. Both of them are about 190. Then the gold that he's been getting over by the Bulls for actually 180 gold, as it's Targon's Brace that's been upgraded here. So Targon's Brace, I do want to take a second to talk about this. It's about a 500 gold sink, 800 overall when you're buying the whole thing. A little bit more than that, but when you're buying this item, it's not exactly cost effective right away, but it has gold for 10 on it. Hold on.
Plugo's going to put a lot of damage down on Spox. The smite comes out for the health. Here's Caps from the side, but he hasn't got 6, just the command protect. Now Caps forces Plugo away. Tearwolf helping out with some trades here as well. Caps is going very aggressive as he pushes in towards Tearwolf, but not going to be able to get too much more out of that.
Yeah, they decided not to go ham there, especially since Plugo used his flash. But Tearwolf just going to go for the trade.
Tearwolf looking for the trade. It's a bait once again as Mantaraya tries to fade. Flash Caps still not 6. Broxa no flash of his own. Mantaraya and Plugo are looking for the chase, but cannot quite get on towards that flank side.
So I was trying to see what was going on there. Mantaraya was 5 at the top lane, barely hit 6 there, and then he goes in. That's what they were waiting for, and that's why Tearwolf felt confident to stick around in that push.
Representatives from Latin America South doing a great job in this early game, continually pulling Fnatic in, making the plays that they want to make, and making Fnatic think that they have the upper hand before turning the tables and taking some of these moves.
And you can see that Fnatic are respecting their opponents right now, but at the same time, they can't end up giving them gigantic CS advantages. We have 10 down, there's 10 up in the top, and now we're looking at Tearwolf being able to pull Broxa a bit level advantage. So if you give them a lot with this composition, that's exactly what they need. They need Fix to have an advantage. They need to get their tanks to a point where they can dive. Because this composition, when it hits mid-game, you need to keep diving. That's how you push the tanks with this low damage combo. Hit those tanky spikes, get under the turret, keep going, hit their low mobility carries like the Oriana or not, and try to just blow people up and use that flex muscle for that.
And it's interesting because we do see an advantage for KLG in terms of CS, but Fnatic actually has here, about 500 ahead. A lot of that is going to come from the bottom lane as well. It looks like Jez is about 400 gold ahead of his counterpart at the moment, just 300 or so. And that's just such an advantage you can get out of these passive lanes with the Targons, with the Nomad Medallion as well. You gain a lot of gold without the team sometimes realizing.
Yeah, so it's actually been about 300 gold that's been generated from the Targon's Brace, so just a kill, pretty much gone over to Jez's from having this Relic Shield purchased by Reckless. And I want to talk about the Targons a little bit, because even though it is something that you sink gold into as the AD carry, and a lot of people would be like, well, you're not getting BF sword items, you're not pushing towards those. This is actually fantastic because it gives you gold per 10, and then the stats on it actually are not bad at all. It's got 175 health. And remember, when you complete this quest, you get a shield that's based on your level that refreshes. When you hit level 9, that shield plus the HP on the item is worth 1,200 gold, and you spent 800 on the item. It essentially becomes 150% cost effective with that shield. And remember, AD carries like Tristana, you do want to have some type of survivability. With the shield is definitely something that you would really want early on, instead of having like a BF sword in your inventory when you hit the mid game.
Well, the last time these two teams met, the game ended in the mid game, about 24 minutes or so. KLG will be hoping that's how it goes this time, because they have the mid game power spike with this Xayah over the Tristana and Oriana that take a little bit more time to scale up. But our European representatives from Fnatic are looking okay at the moment. They'll be pretty happy with how this game's gone. Bot from Mantaraya onto Soaz. There is the twisted advance. Soaz has the flash into the Nature's Grasp, and Mantaraya turns away. There's the root amongst the minions. Soaz is not quite able to take a full trade on the tree.
Remember, Monterrey used his flash for the top flash to try and get Roxa earlier, so he doesn't have it there. Ah, nice W there from Plugo to actually absorb some damage and not die.
Damage reduction from the shield of Durand is very good.
We're just rolling all our R's now?
Yeah. Okay, see, here's the thing. I have something called a roticism, so I struggle to pronounce R's in the best of time, and rolling them helps with that, which is why I love the name Mantarraya in that top lane. And he's doing a pretty good job thus far. Now picked up his Tiamat, looking perhaps towards the Titanic Hydra, as he's got a Ruby Crystal and a long sword for himself as well. Soez has answered that. He said, I'm going to get a Barmy Cinder, and I'm going to get a Bramble Vest.
Yeah, when you're up against this composition that has Fix as the primary source of damage, I feel like what you do here is you go for mostly armor, and you can maybe buy, I would say, an adaptive helm, because you're going to most of Galio's damage is the ticks over time from his Q, and then also the Shen pass through of Q hitting multiple times. So in terms of magic damage, it would be that. Maybe you get a single one, just kind of rely on Gargoyle Stoneplate or Spirit Visage, but I would say maybe the best in this situation. Healing is going to take much damage.
Look at Chaos Latin gamers and their position in the tournament. Currently sitting at 1 and 2, beating Young Generation yesterday and then losing them to them today. And we're starting to see these aggressive plays that KLG are known for. As Tierwolf flashes in onto Soez, Twisted Advance trying to keep himself alive. There's the Bramble Smash as well, looking them back. Mantarraya and Tierwolf will not go for the edge.
So they end up getting out there, and that was actually a flash to try and get him. And Soez did a fantastic job there because he used the Twisted Advance as the ultimate. The explosive cast from Tierwolf was coming out, and so he actually avoids it with the untargetability here. He doesn't fly completely there.
That's a really job. I didn't see that originally. Soez showing that he's a master of the champion, that he doesn't enjoy playing too much. He's been known to call Maokai a dog champion before. He really doesn't enjoy it, but still doing what he needs to do for this team, doing what he needs to do for Fnatic to win. And Roxa is looking up towards this topside country. The first kill on the board. Nature's Grass dive onto Mantarraya. He's on his way up as well, and I think that will dissuade Fnatic from going any further.
Yeah, the ultimate would actually throw a big wrench in the plan. Now Plugo walking past. Down Q on the wave. The crowd said it for me.
Yeah, don't think we need to say anything more about that. Capped.
TP on 2. Roxa just showed himself top. I think he was trying to get him to cancel the TP maybe. But Mantarraya just comes back.
You don't really have the damage to do with the Shen. Yeah. Chucks down Spirit's Refuge underneath that tower and he'll get his hand. Meanwhile, Chaos Latin Game is playing on the other side of the map. They forced Reckless and Jez's back.
And the reason that they're able to do this is because Roxa is just in topside. They saw him there with the game. Mantarraya back. Then he TP'd and he showed himself again. 100% you have to roll the bottom side.
First tower blood for KLG, they'll be very happy with that. Roxa is starting up the Rift Herald and still Fnatic in a very slight advantage. Mantarraya is trying to deal with this. Plugo as well. It's a 2v2. Cap's not on his way yet, and of course no Shockwave. He's already used that in the lane. So as with the Twisted Advance on the edge, the shield of Durand, and there comes the taunt. And now Soez starting to run up towards the top side. Here's the hero's entrance. Soez so low, gets the first blood. KLG is Mantarraya and Plugo combined.
They just need to go more to the right. Just go more to the right. Oh.
We've seen Rift Herald plays work out today. We've seen Rift Herald left alone in the river, all by their Monson. But KLG will be very happy today when across the right deal with that too. Now being aggressive. He's going to lose it now too. Lulu's on her way. There's the wild Ghost Box and knocked out. Flashes, smites as well. Just survives. Gets himself out. Does not get the red buff, but I'm sure he'll be happy with keeping his life.
That actually looked like Tierwolf didn't have enough mana to use the ultimate, and then as soon as he went over, yeah, it was, okay, he barely got enough there. But right here, watch Caps. Caps actually just hanging out mid, and he doesn't roll up. He decides to get priority, and it looks like Fnatic didn't want to completely commit to this. And Caps could have been on the backside of this fight, but they decide to abandon it. And it's really interesting they did that. Probably didn't have Shockwave, but would have had a numbers advantage.
A bit of an experience there, a bit of placing in your priorities with Caps not having had the best tournament thus far. He's just saying, well, let's get ahead in lane. I need to be able to get the pressure in. And KLG are showing that if you work as a team, you can get these advantages. First blood, first tower, and forcing Fnatic back.
Right now, they've swapped the lanes. You can see that KLG want to get another turret and use this combination that's been winning for them. And it's up in CS right now. Instead of this gamble to kind of put Fix on the this Xayah up against Reckless. Always seems to CS well come the mid-game, but right now he's up. He's been doing a fantastic job. It's really Caps who has this gigantic advantage over his lane with 40 CS up. And now Soaz is kind of holding in this top side. He has some Ramble left. He actually is in a really good spot.
Oh, Vix having to use the Featherstorm to get himself out. Now he will be able to use Soaz. And Soaz needs to be a bit cautious because you do have a lot of damage coming out from that Xayah. SMG just being completed. That's a big spike of damage for the bird person.
See on the opposite side here, the Ardent Sensor has already been completed for Jez's. So he's about 600 or 400 gold up right now. So he's able to complete that early, and that gives Reckless even more pushing power, allows him to push down the turret, top turret, his bottom turret, whereas Brox is now on the Dragon.
And he is looking to secure the Cloud Drake for himself. It's another tower for KLG. They are one ahead, baby. Well, not for a very short period of time. They're one ahead for the while. And Fnatic, once again on the back foot. We saw a very similar game from them against Young Generation yesterday, where it was incredibly even for the majority of the matchup. Mantarraya almost catching out Jez's, who was just about able to escape the lane.
All right, so now we're at the point where we have one turret down for Fnatic, two for Chaos Latin Gamers, and they're doing a good job of shoving these down. Mid lane is where they need to go next, and they have a good composition for 1-3-1. They have 2 teleports, they have 4 globals total. So right now, you want them to split the map. So KLG want to just 1-3-1, use their mid lane, which would be their bottom lane now, their AD carry, and put a mid, siege down turrets, get objectives, because they just gave up the Cloud Drake. Get this, use this Rift Herald to try and push down that mid and get that next turret for themselves.
And you open up the map so much more when you get that mid tower, allowing you to play around the Shen, play around the Galio, play around these globals. They're also trying to play around Box. They're getting knocked back. Here comes the TP by Soaz, but that's going to be a little bit too late here. Now, Fnatic decide to cancel the teleport and lose the Rift Herald, so it's a pure gain for Chaos Latin Gamers.